Chapter 501. Huh. You've walked out of the invincible realm? The big fish was slightly surprised, turned around, and whipped him with its tail. Bam! He smashed through layers of coral reefs and left a gully hundreds of meters long at the bottom of the sea. Puff! Blood spurted out of Han Fei's mouth. At that time, he was speechless. Is a phantom so powerful? What would happen if his main body was here? Wouldn't it be able to blow me to death with just a breath? Besides, Han Fei felt that the big fish didn't seem to have spent any effort to defeat him. Beside her, the little time dragon carp was crying. "Mom, take me away. Take me out, Mom. Mom, I don't want to be here. Mom, I want to eat delicious food. Mom." The big fish tilted its head helplessly. "Baby, you can't go out for the time being. Wait a little longer. Wasn't this person going to give you food? You can eat his food." With that, the phantom big fish looked at Han Fei. "Human, take out all the delicious food." Han Fei. Han Fei propped up his body with his feet, cast the divine healing technique on himself, stepped on the spirit-gathering array under his feet, and instantly took a breath of cold air. With a flash between his eyebrows, Little Black and Little White appeared. "Fuse, eat, eat, eat. Don't bully me like this. I can't beat you, but I can assure you that if you kill me, someone will definitely come to kill your daughter." However, the big fish exclaimed in surprise again. Suddenly, Han Fei felt that the surrounding seawater was twisting. In the blink of an eye, his fusion state disappeared without a trace. "Mom, take me away. Take me out, Mom. Mom, I don't want to be here. Mom, I want to eat delicious food. Mom." The big fish tilted its head helplessly again. "Baby, you can't go out for the time being. Wait a little longer. Wasn't this person going to give you food? You can eat his food." Han Fei heard that the little time dragon carp was crying and pestering the big fish phantom, but the big fish phantom said exactly the same words as just now. "What's going on?" "No." Han Fei hurriedly looked at his feet, then at Xiao Sei, and then at the little time dragon carp, and he was shocked. Time reversal? F***ck your mother." Han Fei was completely dumbfounded. His heart was in turmoil. This fish could go back in time. Could it control time? Gulp. The big fish phantom looked at Han Fei. "Summon your spiritual beast." Han Fei asked nervously, "What?" The big fish phantom said lightly, "Don't worry, it's easy for me to kill you. Let me see those two little fish." Han Fei gritted his teeth and pondered for a moment. With a flash between his eyebrows, Little Black and Little White appeared again. He was also helpless. As long as the illusory figure in front of him was around the same level of strength as him. Even if it was just a little stronger, he couldn't back down. However, this thing on the other side was already so powerful that it could even turn back time. Who could withstand this? If he didn't summon Little Black and Little White, it might kill him immediately. But Han Fei wasn't so afraid. If he couldn't, he could still use the sky-dissecting finger. Xiao Sei was dumbfounded. Where did these two little fish come from? There's only one of them. However, he was just a bystander now. He didn't dare to speak, ask, or make a sound. The big fish phantom looked at Little Black and Little White for a long time, and then looked at Han Fei with a very complicated expression. How can you? Forget it, in this small place you are also a unique genius. Forget it, are you willing to be my son's guardian? Han Fei narrowed his eyes, immediately put away Little Black and Little White, and then said, "No, I can't be someone else's servant." Han Fei was counting the time. He decided to enter Forge the Universe. "I can't beat you, but I can hide from you. You want me to call a fish little master like Xiao Sei? Don't even think about it." Just as Han Fei was about to enter Forge the Universe, he heard the big fish phantom say, "Then forget it. After all, you have just embarked on the road to invincibility. You should have the pride that a strong person should have. Otherwise, the road to invincibility will be broken, and you will have no value." A golden light flashed on the top of the big fish phantom's head, and Han Fei's hand tightened, and a quaint ring fell on his hand. Han Fei's face changed drastically. "What is this?" The big fish phantom said. "Don't worry, I just left a mark on you. Although you can't be my son's guardian, you have to promise me one thing, or I will kill you now. As for your threat, Humph, that's just a joke. Your horizons are still too small." Han Fei swallowed. Cough, cough. "Senior, what's the matter?" How could Han Fei have a backer? He was just bragging. His ultimate move was only the sky-severing finger. Of course, he wouldn't use it if he could. With the strength of this guy in front of him, even Old Bai wouldn't be able to survive a slap from his tail. Could Old Bai turn back time? Even if he reluctantly took Ren Tianfei as his backer, he knew nothing about that guy. Would he be willing to fight such a super fierce beast for him? Han Fei felt very uncertain. After all, he hadn't even met Ren Tianfei once. Ren Tianfei probably didn't even know that he was dead. The big fish phantom said lightly, "In the future, when the time is right, I will send my son to stay with you for a while." Han Fei blinked. "When will the time be right?" The big fish phantom said lightly, "Wait until you can overcome your own catastrophe. If you can't even avoid your own catastrophe, forget what I said, and the fate between you and my son will be broken at this time." Han Fei couldn't help but frown. This big fish seemed to know something. He couldn't help asking, "Senior, what catastrophe will I have?" "Love catastrophe?" Bam! Han Fei directly crashed into the coral pile, harder than before, crushing hundreds of meters of coral bushes. Han Fei was speechless. "You hit me again? Why do you keep hitting me? There is a faceless man on the ghost ship, and he said I would have a love catastrophe. I thought the catastrophe was a love catastrophe." The big fish phantom said, "It's a catastrophe. You will know it when you meet it in the future. Otherwise, how can it be a catastrophe?" Han Fei coughed and got up. "Senior, can you give me a hint so that I can prepare for it?" The big fish rolled its eyes at Han Fei. "How can you prepare for it?" "Mom!" The big fish phantom's body began to fade, and it coaxed Han Fei, "Baby, remember this little brother. If you have a chance to see him in the future, call him little brother. If he asks you to call him Dad, you tell Mom, and Mom will slap him to death." Han Fei, Xiao Sei was trembling. Han Fei was not beaten to death? And he even had a chance with Little Master? Isn't this F***king nonsense? Why is my opportunity to be a Dao Guardian? Han Fei's chance is to take care of Little Master for a while? Han Fei was embarrassed. However, he still said seriously, "Senior, I will solve my own catastrophe. But can you tell Little Time not to eat people? In fact, there are still a lot of creatures with energy in the ocean. How much energy can a human have?" The big fish phantom suddenly looked at Han Fei. "What do you call baby?" Han Fei was taken aback. Little Time. Why Little Time?" Han Fei thought of something. "Yes. I don't F***king know this kind of fish. Little Black and Little White have been exposed, but the demon purification pot must not be exposed." So Han Fei hurriedly said, "Well, didn't you just go back in time? I think this name is okay." The big fish phantom nodded slightly. "My son never eats people. This crack is a place to devour energy. With or without my son, it will devour energy. Those who are completely lost will die, and their energy will return to heaven and earth. My son just absorbs the energy that returns to heaven and earth. Even if my son really eats them, it's just the law of nature. Humans and fishes eat each other. This is the law of nature. Do you think humans are the wisest of all creatures?" Han Fei smiled awkwardly. He didn't want to answer this. "Anyway, this hurdle has passed. I'm not going to discuss this with you. What if you don't like it and regret it? What if you smack me to death with your tail?" Then the big fish phantom glanced at Xiao Sei. "Humph, your talent is not weak, but your strength is so poor. You tried to trick my son into teaching you the forbidden time technique with energy. Today, I will take away your reverse light technique as punishment." With that, a mysterious light rose from Xiao Sei's body and was swallowed by the big fish. Xiao Sei quickly responded respectfully, "Thank you for sparing my life, master." Feeling that the atmosphere was a little weird, Little Time looked left and right, and then rubbed her head against the big fish phantom. "Mom, I want to eat. I want to go out to play. Let me out, Mom." While Little Time was acting coquettishly, the big fish phantom looked at Han Fei. Han Fei quickly said, "Little Time, come on, I have a lot of delicious food here." Han Fei threw out a lot of things at that time. He threw out 100 yellow-blooded sea cucumbers and all the crisp. There were also all kinds of octopuses, big fish and crabs piled up like a mountain. Han Fei grinned and said, "Little Time, it's all for you. All for you." Little Time plopped into the pile of food and said sweetly, "Thank you, little brother." Seeing Han Fei taking out food like a bottomless pit, Xiao Sei was speechless. "How much food do you have? Are you really a normal cultivator? Which King normal person would come to the level 3 fishery and take out so much food?" The big fish phantom nodded in satisfaction and then said to Xiao Sei, "From now on, feed my son according to this standard." Then the big fish phantom said to Han Fei, "You shouldn't be here now. Let's go." "Wait." The big fish phantom looked at Han Fei and seemed a little dissatisfied. Han Fei quickly said, "Well, Senior, can I ask where this is? Maybe I can bring delicious food for Little Time in the future. I'm a good eater. I can eat anything." The big fish phantom said lightly, "This is the river of time, which reflects the past here. If my son hadn't called you, you wouldn't have been able to come in at all, and you don't need to come in. After you pass the life and death tribulation, you will have your own destiny." As the water rippled slightly, Han Fei felt that the beautiful scenery in front of him disappeared with a swish. When he reappeared, he had already appeared on the dragon boat. F***CK. I was so scared. Chapter 502. Han Fei frowned bitterly. Was this an opportunity? Anyway, he felt that he had suffered a big loss for the time being. Not to mention anything else, he had given almost all the food except the yellow-blooded sea cucumber to Little Time. It wasn't that he wanted to give it to her, but that the big fish stared at him as if it could see through him. Han Fei immediately got up and was about to leave. He couldn't stay in this place any longer. Otherwise, when Little Time finished eating, she might have to ask him for more food. Just as Han Fei was about to leave, he saw a slight movement in the thick fog and Xiao Sei appeared in front of Han Fei again. However, at this moment, Xiao Sei was no longer a sallow and muscular man, but a handsome young man with outstanding temperament. Han Fei looked at him coldly and said, "What do you want now?" Xiao Sei said lightly, "You and I are not enemies now, so you don't have to be on guard against me. I think it's necessary to explain what happened before to you." Han Fei sneered. "What's there to explain? You can't be a good person, but who knows you can't be a bad person." Xiao Sei ignored Han Fei's sarcasm and just said, "I will send those people back." Han Fei asked in surprise, "Those people are not dead?" Xiao Sei shook his head. "Not everyone can go to the space you went to. You shouldn't have gone there. It was Little Master's summon. This is your opportunity." Han Fei sneered. "Then where did you want to send me before?" Xiao Sei didn't answer but took a deep look at Han Fei. "I came out to tell you a few things. Seeing that you have prepared so much food, I know that your goal must not be on the dragon boat. Since it is not here, it must be in the chasm." Han Fei thought to himself, "I really don't know whether I should tell you or not. In fact, no matter where I go, I bring a lot of food." Xiao Sei continued, "The abyssal chasm is weird. The reason why Little Master wants to live here temporarily is actually to share some of the energy of the abyssal chasm. In the real chasm, there is not even a blade of grass growing. I know you have a lot of food, but you may not be able to withstand it. Han Fei narrowed his eyes slightly. You mean, the degree of energy devouring in the abyssal chasm is stronger than here? Xiao Sei nodded seriously. It should be. I've only been there once. Let me remind you, don't enter the mystic realm whenever you see one. Also, Master wants me to tell you that in order to punish you for your rude words just now, he will give you a small punishment. Han Fei was lost for words. You're still punishing me? I've been patted several times. Isn't that enough? Xiao Sei thought to himself, what are you speechless about? You even dare to be the time dragon carp's father, and you're still speechless? You should be thankful you're not dead. Han Fei did not care about the minor punishment at all, but he suddenly asked seriously, I want to ask you a few questions. Since you can come back safely, why didn't you save them? Xiao Sei smiled and shook his head. I've already told you that the place you went to was the River of Time. It's actually not here at all. Don't I need food to save people? Are you kidding me? You didn't want to let those people go. Are you planning to keep them as energy to trap Little Time's forbidden time technique? Xiao Sei was silent for a moment. Firstly, I don't have any food, so I can't save them. Secondly, since they are destined to die, why not contribute their own energy? But now, it doesn't matter. Little Master has never eaten humans. She only eats the energy of those who are no longer human. Han Fei frowned. Do those people have anything to do with you? Xiao Sei shook his head. No. What about the underwater ferryman? Did you do it? Xiao Sei froze for a moment. I'm 17 this year. How could it be me? Humph. Han Fei was speechless. Then where did they come from? Xiao Sei thought for a moment. Of course, from the depths of the chasm. Neither you nor I can reach the depths of the chasm, so it's useless for you to guess. Humph, do you think I'm the same as you? Xiao Sei smiled. Maybe. Then you are a little stronger, but your result will be the same. That's all I have to say. Whether you go or not, that's your business. I don't care. But, Xiao Sei shook his head slightly. Pay attention to the vortex. Near the abyssal chasm, there will occasionally be a death vortex. You'd better avoid it if you encounter it. Han Fei wondered, just one? Xiao Sei was speechless. How many more do you want? Every time the death vortex appears, someone will go there. If I hadn't had a special method, I wouldn't have been able to avoid it. Han Fei was thinking. Since the death vortex was dangerous, he might as well avoid it if he encountered it. Anyway, his speed was not slow, and he wouldn't be unable to avoid a vortex in the sea. Xiao Sei said, but Han Fei immediately said angrily, Can you finish your words at once? Xiao Sei took a deep look at Han Fei. However, I'm not sure where the vortex leads, but it may lead to the abyssal chasm. Of course, you were too presumptuous just now, and your punishment may be there. The corner of Han Fei's mouth twitched. He always felt that he couldn't find the way at all after coming here. He appeared in the Dead Sea inexplicably. He just casually entered a ray of light and he found himself in a fairyland. Now, there was a King vortex that would take him to nowhere. Han Fei snorted. Which direction? Xiao Sei raised his hand and pointed to the stern. Without saying a word, Han Fei jumped down into the sea. After swimming for 1,000 kilometers, Han Fei already felt that his energy consumption had increased. Therefore, he directly covered his body with a spiritual energy protective cover to prevent the energy from escaping. Maybe he didn't have enough energy, but he definitely had enough spiritual energy. After swimming for about 3,000 kilometers, he found that there were no more creatures in the sea. There weren't even any plankton that was slightly larger, let alone the blue fish. Han Fei ran to the bottom of the sea and took a look, only to find that it was desolate. There was nothing but sand and gravel. There wasn't even seaweed or green algae, let alone anything hidden under the sand. He swam for a full day. When Han Fei felt his heart palpitate, he saw a trench. To be precise, he didn't know if this was a trench, because the crack was too big. He looked around and finally, at the beginning of the crack, he could see cliffs on both sides. Further in, the crack spread wider and finally disappeared. Han Fei quickly took out the map that Ren Tianfei left for him. At this moment, it was useless to use Old Bai's map. Old Bai's map was the entire Level 3 fishery. However, although Ren Tianfei had drawn a lot of maps, the other places of the Level 3 fishery were probably just doodles, except for the abyssal chasm. On the map, it was a pattern that looked like a long and narrow eye. Judging from the position of the Hurricane Sea, Han Fei was now at the corner of one of the eyes. However, Ren Tianfei was really good at choosing positions. His treasure map had almost fallen right in the middle of that huge eye. If one were to divide it by the eyes, then this guy would directly place the treasure on the upper eyelid, which was closer to the inner area. Han Fei's first thought was to go around. I should go around to the middle and then enter directly from there, instead of swimming directly to the middle from the corner of the eye. Thinking of this method, Han Fei immediately swam to the periphery of the long and narrow eye, intending to cut in horizontally. Swish! Clang! 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 But after swimming for more than 300 kilometers, Han Fei suddenly took action and shattered a piece of sword qi overflowing from the crack. He was dumbfounded. From here, there was a lot of sword qi. Was the periphery blocked? In other words, the periphery of this eye seemed to be wrapped by a wall of sword qi. And Han Fei looked up and began to swim up from below. Swish! 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 Above, the sword qi was even more violent, like hundreds of millions of sword qi currents swimming on the bottom of the sea. Han Fei only swam up less than 1,000 meters and his body was cut with dozens of wounds. Yes, even his powerful indestructible body was pierced. Was the indestructible body not strong enough? No, Han Fei was very sure that the indestructible body was very strong. However, the sword qi escaping from the abyssal chasm was even stronger. Shit! How come there are so many domineering sword qi currents? Han Fei continued to look up, only to find that the higher he went, the denser the sword qi currents were, to the point that they were visible to the naked eye. What the f***ck? Is there only one way? I'm forced to break in directly. Han Fei walked around for a long time and could only return to the starting point. Anyway, the entrance was only so big, so he had to go in. However, he didn't see the vortex that Xiaosei said, so he rushed in directly. Han Fei's speed was not slow. With little gold attached to him, he was extremely fast. However, just less than 2 minutes after Han Fei rushed into the abyssal chasm, he felt a huge suction falling on him. Oh no! Han Fei's face suddenly changed. Even with little gold attached to him, his speed was still reduced by more than half in an instant. It turned out that in the sea, a huge vortex suddenly appeared, which should be the one that Xiaosei said. To Han Fei's horror, although seawater vortexes were normal, and there were many possibilities to form them, they were basically waterspouts that came from the bottom up. Just like when water was released from a pool, there would always be a vortex formed at the outlet. However, Han Fei saw that the vortex seemed to appear out of nowhere, and it was hundreds of meters wide the moment it appeared. This small vortex was a hole in the center of the vortex. It was completely a **king black hole, but it was different from a portal. At least the portal had a rotating light and shadow, but the black hole was just like the black holes in the universe that Han Fei knew, just a **king black circle. Around the black hole, Han Fei was spinning frantically. Majestic mystic spell. At this moment, Han Fei didn't dare to hold back at all. The unknown was often full of mystery and horror. As soon as the majestic mystic spell was activated, Han Fei's speed doubled again, even faster than before. Han Fei's face was full of smiles. Hey! You want me to suck you? Do you think you can suck me? However, in the blink of an eye, The smile on Han Fei's face froze. He turned around and immediately cursed, "What the F***ck? F***ck? How did it catch up?" Chapter 503. Han Fei really didn't know why there were so many strange things in the underwater world. Any one of them could make one's hair stand on end. What about himself? Wherever he went, he would encounter a bunch of them. The huge black hole seemed to have eyes. Seeing that it didn't suck Han Fei, it began to move. What made Han Fei speechless was that the black hole didn't move but suddenly approached him thousands of meters away. It was like Xia Xiaochan's teleportation, appearing very abruptly. As soon as Han Fei escaped from the suction of this black hole, he was sucked in again. This time, he was not as lucky as before. Just now, the distance was far away, so Han Fei could still rush out. This time, Little Gold couldn't even flap his wings. Han Fei immediately crushed a flash stone. As a result, something even more amazing happened. Han Fei felt that he had moved out. But in a mysterious way, he was sucked back in and landed on the same spot. F***ck. Is the flash stone useless? However, the moment Han Fei looked back, he saw a shadow slithering like a snake in the black hole. Huh. Is there something in it? Suddenly, Han Fei didn't resist. A moment ago, he resisted because he was afraid that this black hole would tear apart everything it sucked in like a real black hole. But since there was a creature in it, and it was the first creature he had seen after swimming for so long, he felt that since other creatures wouldn't be torn apart, neither would he. Immediately, Little Gold was taken back by Han Fei. And he also put on an ultra-quality battlesuit and pressed one hand on the blood-drinking knife. He didn't remove the majestic mystic spell. Since this black hole had targeted him, it must be dangerous, so a battle was inevitable. Now, since Han Fei learned the art of invincibility, as long as the enemy was not too strong, he would fight it. Even if he didn't want to fight, he wouldn't be afraid. It seemed that his fear had long been eaten up by this art of invincibility. I hate those who pretend to be mysterious the most. Come out and fight. Han Fei turned around and rushed to the black hole at an incredible speed under the suction force. Sure enough, Han Fei only felt the suction, but didn't feel the feeling of tearing his body. This was undoubtedly a good sign, so he immediately formed a fist seal. Bang! A dazzling fist radiance smashed towards the incomparably huge black hole. Pop! The moment Han Fei touched the black hole, it was as if he had entered another underwater space from the seawater, a bit like the sky mirror of the mist salt marsh. However, it was extremely dark here, and Han Fei's golden fist mark hit the void. Even the dazzling gold couldn't light up this pitch-black place. Suddenly, Han Fei had a sense of crisis. He subconsciously moved his body sideways and punched the darkness behind him. Bang! Han Fei had no idea what the golden fist mark landed on. Initially, it felt soft and then hard like flesh and bones. In the light of the fist, Han Fei saw a ball-sized eye staring at him in the darkness. Data appeared in his eyes. Name Abyssal Water Serpent. Introduction. It was originally an ordinary sea snake, but it mistakenly drank the blood essence of a powerhouse and turned into a venomous snake. It took 500 years to become a flood dragon, 1,000 years to become a dragon, and 10,000 years to become a true dragon. Its wings are slightly spread, its speed is extremely fast, its mouth spits poisonous flames, its strength is 490,000 kilograms, and its defense is extremely strong. Level 42 quality, exotic, mutated, contains spiritual energy greater than 6,285 points, edible effect, it can be eaten to strengthen the body, soul, and strength. Collectible tendons, blood, flesh, gallbladder, and teeth absorbable, note greater than 498 years of venomous snake, about to become a flood dragon. After seeing the creature in front of him, Han Fei immediately breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out to be a venomous snake. Bang! Han Fei felt the water flow in the darkness, as if a huge wave was crashing over, and he immediately punched out. Above his fists, hundreds of fist shadows blasted out. Dum, 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 ho! Han Fei clearly saw that it was a huge tail. Just one tail was more than 10 meters long. Then how big was this abyssal water venomous snake? Han Fei was slapped away, but the power of the giant tail had already been neutralized. The huge body of the abyssal water venomous snake was not much better than Han Fei. It was even more miserable, and one of its tails was almost smashed. However, Han Fei was also quite shocked. Is this AF King level 42 creature? Han Fei was a little stunned. Do you think I've never beaten an inferior manfish before? Han Fei was not bragging, but the power of the tail just now was enough to flatten a level 45 inferior manfish. He was now an advanced dangling fisher, but he failed to smash this tail with the majestic mystic spell. Oh! In the next moment, Han Fei felt a current full of fishy smell gushing at him, and the seawater was full of sticky things. Poison? Han Fei frowned in disgust. Is this abyssal water venomous snake starting to spew poison? I've eaten the venomous tulip. There's no poison that can poison me in the level 3 fishery. Han Fei clenched his fists, and instead of retreating, he rushed up. His left hand clenched into a fist and shrank under his armpit. His right hand clenched into a fist, which was dazzling with golden light. In the darkness, it was like a dazzling sun, too brilliant. At the moment when Han Fei rushed up, there were 3 bursts of spiritual energy on his right hand, and before he punched out, 3 splashes of water tens of meters in diameter broke out in the water. The golden fist was like an advancing rocket, and the shadow of the fist was tens of meters in diameter. Oh! In the darkness, the abyssal water venomous snake opened its mouth, and a mass of billowing spiritual waves rolled in its throat, spurting at Han Fei. Humph! Strange creatures, so what? Mutant creatures, so what? I'll beat you. Ah! Boom! In the darkness, a golden fist light instantly penetrated the billowing spiritual waves and blasted at the abyssal water venomous snake's head like a sharp arrow. Thud! The huge body of the abyssal water venomous snake rolled dozens of times in the water under Han Fei's punch. Han Fei hurriedly stuffed a piece of yellow-blooded sea cucumber into his mouth, and then immediately followed up. When Han Fei stepped on the abyssal water venomous snake's head, he found out how big it was. Just its head was 5 or 6 meters in size. At this moment, a large part of the abyssal water venomous snake's forehead was dented, and one of its eyeballs was blown out. Behind Han Fei, he found that the back of this big snake was trembling, and fan-like wings were growing out. It wasn't even a wing, it was more like a large piece of vibrating fins. However, when spread out, it was nearly 3 meters long, so it looked like wings. But compared with the huge body of the abyssal water venomous snake, it could only be regarded as a fin. Han Fei stood on the abyssal water venomous snake's head and put the blood-drinking knife against its forehead. Be quiet, or I'll chop you. Bam! Han Fei felt that his head suddenly went blank, and a kind of needle-like pain drilled into his head. However, the demon purification pot immediately spun, and the pain disappeared. Unfortunately, in such a short time, the abyssal water venomous snake began to run away. How could Han Fei let it run away? He immediately threw out his fishing hook, and the void-breaking technique traversed 100 meters and hooked the abyssal water venomous snake. So a huge water venomous snake pulled a person and began to swim wildly in the deep sea. After only a few minutes, Han Fei felt that his eyes lit up. It was no longer the desperate black. Although it was still dark, Han Fei could see. Shoot! Han Fei was taken aback. Just now, when they were fighting in the dark, he didn't notice it. But now that he could see, he saw a super big snake with a length of 70 or 80 meters, dragging him and swinging him. Bam! The abyssal water venomous snake slapped Han Fei to the ground and dragged him away. Han Fei said angrily, "You want to do this the hard way? I wasn't going to kill you, but now I'm going to kill you. Han Fei suddenly retracted the fishing rod and rushed forward quickly, followed by 99 blue sea wandering dragon daggers shooting out. The long sword was like a dragon, directly strangling the abyssal water venomous snake. Clank, clank, clank. Han Fei was slightly taken aback. What a strong defense! An ultra-quality spiritual weapon didn't tear it apart? I'll cut off your wings. Let's see how you can run. Seeing that the abyssal water venomous snake couldn't penetrate its body, the blue sea wandering dragon daggers curled again, and the two conjoined wings of 20 or 30 meters long were directly smashed by Han Fei. Boom! The abyssal water venomous snake's head hit the ground. Han Fei landed on its head again and sat on its head. Above his fists, golden light dazzled, and they fell on the snake's head like raindrops. Dum dum dum. Dum dum dum. Chapter 504. Even this abyssal water serpent didn't expect that it would encounter such a formidable opponent today. It was so small, but it was so fierce that Han Fei couldn't beat it. After a few minutes, Han Fei stopped punching. Then, Han Fei crazily stuffed the yellow-blooded sea cucumber into his mouth. It was because this abyssal water serpent was too difficult to defeat. It didn't look like a level 42 creature at all. The inferior manfish was so small that it couldn't even be smacked by its tail. In terms of strength, this abyssal water serpent was not weaker than him at all. In terms of speed, he was almost left behind just now. In terms of defense, even Han Fei's ultra-quality spiritual weapon couldn't hurt it. How could a level 42 creature be so strong? Han Fei thought that if he had been using the majestic mystic spell, he would have been smacked to death by this guy. Han Fei guessed that this was probably the punishment given to him by the big fish that Xiao Sei mentioned. Otherwise, how could there be a creature in this damn place? He didn't even have energy, but a creature suddenly popped out. Was this not a gift? That big fish underestimated you. I'm a heavenly talent. I was just worried that I couldn't find a powerful creature, and you just sent me one. Now I can fuse with it. Son of AB*TCH, collect the demon. In Han Fei's consciousness space, the demon purification pot flickered, and the huge body of the abyssal water serpent trembled slightly. The demon collection failed. Purring. Another punch. Do you understand human language? If you don't yield, I'll kill you. Bam. Collect the demon. However, this time, it didn't succeed again. Han Fei's face suddenly darkened. This is a creature that I killed at the risk of my life. How dare you say that you don't obey me? Do you think you can get away with it if you don't obey me? Han Fei's fist punched at a point on the snake's head crazily. In the end, one of its bones was broken, and a small hole was smashed open on its head. You don't yield, do you? Okay, I like stubborn people. Little Black. With a flash between Han Fei's eyebrows, Little Black and Little White appeared. Han Fei pointed at the hole in front of him and said, Little Black, get in. Don't kill it. You can eat anywhere else, but save the tendons and gall for me. This was not the first time that Little Black and Han Fei had cooperated like this. When Little Black drilled into the snake's head, the abyssal water serpent beneath it began to thrash wildly. Following that, his body began to roll and his tail began to beat. Collect the demons. Submit or die. What's your choice? Collect the demons. Believe me, although you will become a flood dragon in 2 years, I may not be able to defeat you at that time. However, you're still a snake, so you'll have to coil up. Collect the demons. Hey, big guy, do you understand what I'm saying? Give up resisting. You will become a better version of yourself. What was a flood dragon? As long as you follow me, the flood dragon can kill one with a swing of its tail. Han Fei was bluffing on the side. Anyway, bragging was free, so he bragged as hard as he could. In fact, Han Fei believed that neither the nine-tailed mantis shrimp nor Little Gold would have low achievements in the future. The quality of this abyssal water serpent was not bad, and it could even be said to be too strong. Although it would not be the original after the fusion, it would at least be a part of the fused creature, right? Finally, after the abyssal water serpent was in great pain, it turned into a stream of light and disappeared on Han Fei's wrist. At this time, in the seawater, Little Black was still biting. However, with a clatter, he didn't bite anything. He couldn't help but be stunned. Han Fei smiled and said, "Son, good job." Little Black swam over to Han Fei, bumped Han Fei's chest, and turned a few times in the water. Han Fei couldn't help muttering. No matter how powerful a creature was, it would still be collected. Why did it have to suffer so much? Han Fei turned his head and glanced at Little White. "Daughter, do you feel any danger?" Little White suddenly blinked her eyes and opened her mouth to Han Fei. Do you want something to eat?" Han Fei immediately threw a spiritual fruit to Little White. For a time, spiritual energy surged on Little White and Little Black, but it only lasted for a very short time. Now, a spiritual fruit didn't seem to be enough to feed these two little things. So Han Fei threw another one to Little White. At this time, Little White swallowed a mouthful of seawater, bit Han Fei's body, and seemed to want to go back. Go back? Han Fei frowned slightly. It's impossible to go back. We finally came in and haven't got the treasure yet. Han Fei felt that the so-called black hole was actually a road, a real road to the depths of the chasm. The main reason why he was so sure was that this water was absorbing more and more energy. According to the time koi, Han Fei was more convinced. Putting away Little Black and Little White, Han Fei entered Forge the Universe. Although the battle just now was short and neat, Han Fei used the art of invincibility, which really consumed too much energy. In the past, Han Fei always carried a stick, or used the million knife art, or the draw technique. But since learning the art of invincibility, Han Fei felt that he could fight anything, and he felt that he could kill a dragon with a single punch. And the more he thought about it, the more Han Fei wanted to fight. What was the flaw of the art of invincibility? It was related to the user's own physique. The stronger the physique, the more powerful the art of invincibility. In contrast, the stronger the physique, the more powerful the art of invincibility would be, and the more energy it would consume. For example, before this, Han Fei still felt full. But now? He felt his stomach deflate, and he felt like he was about to collapse. In Forge the Universe, Han Fei had a good meal. At the same time, he also refined a big shield. It was not because Han Fei's defensive power was not strong enough. In fact, Han Fei's offensive and defensive abilities were already strong enough. There seemed to be no hope for him to become stronger in the short term. After all, Han Fei was already armed to the teeth. If an ultra-quality spiritual weapon couldn't hurt a creature, it might hurt him. Therefore, building a big shield would at least give him one more guarantee. After eating and drinking, Han Fei continued to set off. Holding the map in one hand, he searched for similar places according to the map. In particular, in the Abyssal Chasm, there were actually 3 main secret realms. Han Fei found that the second secret realm coincided with the treasure point on Ren Tianfei's map. The first mystic realm should be nearby. After swimming for about 200 kilometers, Han Fei suddenly saw a dilapidated gate tower. Huh? Is this still AF * King's secret realm? Why is it so obvious? This gate tower was as high as 100 meters. On both sides of the gate tower there were 2 broken statues. The man on the left was holding a huge stick in his hand, which was inserted into the ground. The head of the man on the right was gone, and one hand was on his waist, holding a saber, half of which was broken. In the middle, Han Fei only saw a mountain of rock. Standing in front of the gate tower, Han Fei was about to step in, but his heart faintly trembled. I can't go in. Han Fei remembered that when he came to the level 3 fishery, his teacher once said that he didn't need to enter some secret realms to know whether they were dangerous or not. Until now, Han Fei hadn't encountered such a secret realm. But here, he felt it. That feeling was very strange. He felt that as long as he really entered it, he would most likely die or even die. It was extremely dangerous. Besides, Han Fei also remembered Xiao Sei's words. Not all secret realms could be entered at will. Is the first secret realm so dangerous? Besides, the demon purification pot didn't react at all. It won't be too late for me to come back after I get my hands on Ren Tianfei's treasure. With this in mind, Han Fei simply let go of this secret realm. When Han Fei crossed this secret realm and swam for about 500 kilometers, he still didn't encounter a single creature. Naturally, there was no danger along the way. It seemed that in the entire abyssal chasm, there was only one abyssal water serpent. Han Fei was even more certain that the abyssal water serpent was definitely not here. It might have been released by the big fish during some time. Thinking of this, Han Fei couldn't help but shiver. Raising a daughter in time and releasing creatures from time? Wasn't this a bit too terrifying? Swish. Han Fei was swimming happily, looking forward to reaching the most central area as soon as possible. But suddenly, a white sword mark swept across the seawater and swept at him. Ha! I knew it wouldn't be so easy. Clang! Holding the embroidery needle, Han Fei smashed the sword mark with his rod and then slowly stopped. He saw that there seemed to be other sword marks flashing in front of him. Judging from what he felt just now, the sword mark was actually not weak and seemed to be even stronger than the blow of an intermediate dangling fisher. Ha! Han Fei just paused for a moment and then continued to move forward. This was an ownerless sword mark, the same as the sword wall outside this chasm canyon. Although Han Fei didn't know why it was formed, it seemed to be the residual sword intent that burst out spontaneously. It could only be said that a peerless master once fought here. That person was very strong, and the sword intent he left was still wandering to this day. After swimming for more than 500 kilometers, there were more and more sword marks. At first, there were only one or two, but here Han Fei found that there were as many as 100 sword marks within a kilometer. They wandered around in the seawater like streamlined elves. Once someone approached, these sword marks would sweep at him. After being smashed by Han Fei one by one, these sword marks never appeared again. Huh! Has no one been here before? It shouldn't be. Han Fei wondered. If these sword marks disappeared and would never appear again, they should have been cleaned up long ago. Why were there so many? And they were getting denser and denser? At this time, Han Fei had cleaned up the area within a kilometer radius and kept his spiritual energy protective cover activated. After about 5 minutes, suddenly, a white sword mark emerged from the ground. Then, one after another, more sword marks emerged from the rock wall. Wow! If it was someone who didn't use a sword, he certainly wouldn't know what this meant. Although Han Fei didn't use a sword, he used a knife. What he had learned all his life came from the heaven-level, divine-quality knife scripture. Although there was only one real combat skill in the knife scripture, it was the draw technique. But for Han Fei, this knife was also invincible. If Han Fei used the draw technique to cut off a rock, he would be able to use the draw technique. Then, a strong knife intent would naturally be left on the rock. This kind of thing, like a ghost, diffused in the cracks of the stone. If it was not completely shattered, it would basically not disappear. And now, Han Fei had a faint guess. The chasm canyon that he had been swimming in for a long time seemed to have been cut out by someone with a sword. Therefore, on the periphery of the canyon, there was a circle of sword chi wall, which ordinary people would be smashed when they touched it. Ren Tianfei, aren't you leading me into a trap? Chapter 505. Han Fei cursed Ren Tianfei 10,000 times in his heart. If this crack was really created by someone's sword as Han Fei had guessed, then it would be very strange. What kind of existence would be able to unleash such a terrifying sword strike? Besides, the further he went, the stronger the sword intent was. The stronger the sword intent was, the stronger the sword intent was. As Han Fei expected, wearing an ultra-quality battlesuit, He didn't slow down at all and swam straight for more than 2,000 kilometers. The sword chi was getting stronger as he expected. At the beginning, it was still the sword intent of an intermediate dangling fisher. But now, the power contained in each sword chi was no weaker than the full blow of an advanced dangling fisher. Han Fei looked at the map. According to the scale on the map, he was at least 5,000 kilometers away from the treasure left by Ren Tianfei. Damn, this old guy. No wonder I can't come here even when I'm a dangling fisher. If it were someone else, I would have been killed. After 1,000 kilometers, the sword chi had surpassed the realm of an advanced dangling fisher. After 2,000 kilometers, within a kilometer, there were thousands of sword chi, which had almost reached the attack of an ordinary peak-level dangling fisher. After 3,000 kilometers, the sword chi had completely reached the level of a peak-level dangling fisher. Among them, there were occasionally 1 or 2 attacks that surpassed the realm of an ordinary peak-level dangling fisher. After 4,000 kilometers, Han Fei was slashed into Forge the Universe. His spiritual energy protective cover couldn't hold any longer, and Han Fei had to eat a large piece of sea cucumber almost every 100 kilometers. Han Fei had an illusion. Why did the crack consume human energy? It was most likely due to this sword of the Almighty. Think about it. Don't these sword intents need energy? Where does this energy come from? It can only be absorbed from the surroundings. Of course, this might be more than one reason, but at least it was one of the reasons. At this moment, Han Fei was full and shouted, "Majestic mystic spell." Yes, the sword chi after 4,000 kilometers had reached the level of the immortals' slaying formation. If Han Fei hadn't become an advanced dangling fisher, he might have to take a break every 100 kilometers. After entering Forge the Universe 3 times in a row, Han Fei finally came to the 5,000-kilometer range. Swish, swish. The sword light was like snow, and the hundreds of blue sea wandering dragon daggers flew around him and mixed with the sword light. Shield. Han Fei took out the big shield, held it in front of him, and rushed forward. Clang, clang, clang. Fortunately, although the sword chi was strong, it was not enough to shatter the supreme-grade spiritual weapon in one go. Otherwise, the supreme-grade spiritual weapon would not have any sense of existence. However, after only a few dozen kilometers, the places on Han Fei's body that were not covered by the battle suit were already covered with bloodstains. At this point, any random sword chi in the seawater could leave a sword mark on his body. And that was when he used the majestic mystic spell. Son of a bitch! Luckily, I didn't come earlier. Otherwise, I would have been hacked to death here. Clang, clang, clang. Sword chi was like a waterfall. Han Fei, who was holding an ultra-quality spiritual shield, was forced to retreat. The blue sea wandering dragon daggers around him could barely protect him. At this moment, the sword chi was no longer as simple as it seemed to be in the thousands. There were tens of thousands of them densely packed together. Damn it, Ren Tianfei, you old bastard! Sooner or later, I'll settle the score with you. Explode. With a muffled roar, Han Fei punched the big shield and blasted the big shield forward with the art of invincibility. BM, BM, BM. Han Fei didn't know how many punches he had thrown. Anyway, in the short distance of 100 kilometers, he entered Forge the Universe 7 times. When he came out again, Han Fei took advantage of the moment. He came out to look around. Suddenly, he found that there was a large tablet standing on the ground thousands of meters away. On the big tablet it was written, "Hidden fishers and above, trespassers will die." Damn, here it is. Simple and clear, that's the style of that old bastard. As soon as he saw this tablet, Han Fei knew that it was definitely set up by that old bastard Ren Tianfei. Even the words on the tablet were the same as those outside the mantis shrimp cave in the boat-burying pit. He just changed his title from a fishing master to a hidden fisher. Han Fei didn't know where he got the strength, but he held the big shield and rushed all the way to this tablet against the flaming sword chi. Sure enough, behind this tablet, there was a hole only 4 or 5 meters in size. Bam! Without thinking, Han Fei jumped into the hole without any hesitation. No water? As soon as Han Fei came in, he found that the ground was dry and there was air here. Huff, 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 Han Fei took a few deep breaths and looked down, only to find that the ultra-quality battle suit on his body was full of sword marks. Although the battle suit was not damaged, many places had been deflated, and its shape was not as good as before. Han Fei couldn't help but be shocked. In fact, he might not be able to hold on for another 200 or 300 kilometers. He didn't know how terrible it would be later. Damn it, fortunately, you didn't put the treasure at the back. Otherwise, I would have slipped away. Han Fei took a deep breath again, put away the big shield, and put his head near the hole. The sword chi that had lost its target once again turned into swimming white marks in the sea, as if nothing had happened just now. Han Fei swallowed. The first secret realm was built on the edge of the cliff. That was because that secret realm was very dangerous, so there was no need to worry about people exploring it. And Ren Tianfei also stood on the edge of the cliff like others. That was because ordinary people couldn't resist the overwhelming sword chi outside at all. Han Fei wasn't bragging. Even if he was a hanging fisher, without the strength of an advanced hanging fisher, he would definitely be killed by the overwhelming sword chi inside. After all, not everyone could cheat on his side. It was probably because of this that Ren Tianfen set up a Taoist stele on the edge of the cliff. Ha! Ha ha! I'm here. Old B** starred Ren Tianfei. Here I come. Han Fei smiled smugly. It wasn't easy for him to make this trip. Inexplicably, he went from the Hurricane Sea to the Dead Sea, from the Dead Sea to the Dragon Boat, from the Dragon Boat to the otherworldly fairyland, overturned the deep-sea centipedes, and withstood the waterfall of sword chi. Han Fei couldn't help but sigh. It wasn't easy for me to make this trip. He was about to become a lunatic. Han Fei cast the divine healing technique on himself, got up and looked around the cave. This seemed to be a downward slope leading to a cave deep in the cliff. Han Fei felt that it was a miracle that he could come all the way here. As a normal person, he took it for granted that he should go directly to find treasures like the Mantis Shrimp Cave. So Han Fei walked straight into the depths of the cave. Just after walking for more than 100 meters, he saw a large circular cave with a radius of nearly 300 meters. Han Fei grinned and rushed inside. However, as soon as he entered the cave, the flesh on his face froze. Because right in front of him, there were 2 big words written on a large stone wall. Test. Han Fei was stunned for a long time, and then flew into a rage and cursed, "Why do you still want to test me?" There was no doubt that the words test were written on the wall, which meant that this was a test for him. With Ren Tianfei's character, he didn't even bother to say a few words. Maybe he just suddenly thought of it, so he wanted to test him before he took the treasures. Han Fei chuckled. Test me? I've even withstood the sword chi. How can I be afraid of a test? Han Fei was very confident in himself. After all, Ren Tianfei had only left him the indestructible body art, but he had underestimated his other experiences. Han Fei walked forward without hesitation. This was a purely circular cave, and there was no next entrance. Han Fei guessed that it would only appear after he passed this test. However, when Han Fei looked around, his face immediately darkened. He saw human skeletons, a total of 13. Han Fei frowned. It seems that many people have come here in the past 300 years. There are actually 13 dangling fishers who can come to this place? These skeletons died in strange ways. Some were embedded in the wall, some were sitting against the wall, some were embedded in the floor, and some were curled up into a ball. Han Fei's eyelids trembled. These skeletons must have been hit by a huge hammer. Among them, there were 5 skeletons embedded in the rock wall and 3 on the floor. Han Fei was speechless. How much strength did it take to hit people into the rock wall and the ground? Han Fei curled his lips and walked to the center of the cave. In terms of strength, Han Fei was confident that even Ren Tianfei himself could only be beaten by him when they were in the same realm. When Han Fei stood in the center of the cave, he felt the ground shake. Then, a ghost-like figure appeared 5 meters in front of Han Fei. This man had a messy beard and his hair was combed back, exposing his forehead. He looked like Einstein. Huh? Why is there someone else here? Han Fei. Han Fei was speechless. Can you talk? Of course I'm not dead. Of course I can talk. Han Fei exclaimed, shit. You. The bearded man said arrogantly, what? Don't try to stall for time. Although I'm just a phantom clone, I won't be killed by your little tricks. As long as the person I'm waiting for doesn't come, I can still wait for 10,000 years. Han Fei was speechless. So, are you really Ren Tianfei? The phantom was taken aback. You know me? Are you my disciple? Chapter 506. For a moment, the air seemed particularly manic. Ren Tianfei was silent for a while. Are you the little B** starred who made me wait for hundreds of years? Han Fei bared his teeth. Are you the old B** starred who tried to kill me? Who are you calling an old B** starred? Who are you calling a little B** starred? Ren Tianfei's phantom gradually emitted a ray of brilliance. Shrouded by the brilliance, his phantom became more and more real. In just 10 seconds, Han Fei found that this guy had turned into a real person. Han Fei was stunned. F***ck. Aren't you a phantom clone? How did you become a human? Clatter. Ren Tianfei clenched one hand into a fist and the other into a palm. He pressed his 2 hands against each other and made a clattering sound. Seeing Han Fei's astonishment, Ren Tianfei sneered. Do you think I only left a thought here? I left a drop of essence blood here, and I can turn into a real person at any time. Han Fei felt that 10,000 iron-head fish were galloping in his heart. Is there such a thing? The essence blood turned into a human, so I came back to life? However, Han Fei immediately noticed something. Why are you only a dangling fisher? Ren Tianfei was also stunned. He looked at Han Fei for a long time and then gasped. You? Little B** starred, you are only an advanced dangling fisher? Impossible. How can an advanced dangling fisher come here? Han Fei was speechless. You didn't make it clear. You just said that I'd better not come here when I'm a dangling fisher. I thought you were talking about a junior dangling fisher. Fortunately, I didn't come here until I was an advanced dangling fisher. So, you didn't expect me to come here when I was a dangling fisher? Ren Tianfei was also speechless. Did I take in a silly girl? Shouldn't a normal person come here when he is a hanging fisher? Han Fei said angrily, nonsense. Hanging fishers are not allowed to enter the level 3 fishery. Except for the guardians of the dragon boats, the level 3 fishery is full of great fishing masters or dangling fishers. How can I come here if I'm a hanging fisher? Ren Tianfei was stunned. Really? Weren't hanging fishers allowed to come here before? Han Fei pondered for a moment. Times are changing. That was 300 years ago. Anyway, I won't give it to you now. Ren Tianfei said suspiciously, bullshit. What was 300 years? This rule will not be broken even after 3,000 years. Suddenly, something occurred to Ren Tianfei. Then, he suddenly looked Han Fei up and down. An advanced dangling fisher, tsk. It seems that I've picked up a good disciple. Han Fei sneered. Who the hell is your disciple? After messing with me so much, you still want to be my master? Ren Tianfei snorted. You're my disciple now that you've learned my indestructible body. However, you seem to have other fortuitous encounters. Otherwise, given your current strength, the meridians in your body would have exploded by now. It's impossible for it to still be intact. Han Fei's face immediately turned dark. I wouldn't have thought of that if you hadn't mentioned it. If it wasn't for the fact that I have so many treasures, I would have long since been crippled by your indestructible body. Han Fei said unkindly, I've worked hard to come here. Where are the treasures? Ren Tianfei chuckled. Treasure? If you call me master, I'll give it to you. Bah! Han Fei spat at the ground. In your dreams. Ren Tianfei rolled up his sleeves. Try spitting at me again. I'm going to slap you to death, you little bastard. Ren Tianfei's fist the size of a casserole came at Han Fei. Of course, Han Fei didn't refuse. He had already seen that Ren Tianfei didn't seem to be strong and had just become a hanging fisher at most. If your main body was here, I might even obediently call you master. You're just a hanging fisher clone, and you want me to call you master? You're not dreaming, are you? Han Fei roared and a golden fist light burst out of his body. Boom! The two fists collided, and the next second, Han Fei flew out and hit the rock wall, shaking the cave. Cough cough. F***ck. Old B** starred, are you using the power of a hanging fisher? However, Ren Tianfei did not respond to him but looked at Han Fei curiously again. What tremendous strength! Have you broken the second barrier of the indestructible body art? Han Fei thought for a moment. Should I use the majestic mystic spell? He used 80% of his strength in the punch just now, but he was hammered into the wall. He probably knew why there were several corpses embedded in the wall. It turned out that Ren Tianfei, the old B** starred, was too strong. The punch just now definitely weighed 70 to 80,000 kilograms. Even so, Ren Tianfei looked quite relaxed as if he had just thrown a punch casually. Han Fei sneered. Old B** starred, you're forcing me to fight you. Ren Tianfei chuckled. Interesting. If you hadn't broken the second barrier of the indestructible body, you wouldn't have been able to come here. Also, there's something wrong with the boxing technique you used just now. It's so fierce and domineering. It seems a bit like the art of invincibility. TSK. It's quite similar to my style. Style my A**s. Watch my fist. This time, Han Fei attacked with all his strength, looking ferocious and powerful. With a roar, the golden fist light completely broke out, and each punch was like a dragon, and the huge golden fist shadow swept out. Ren Tianfei chuckled. You're quite arrogant. Today, let me teach you what unparalleled boxing technique is. As soon as he said that, Ren Tianfei's expression suddenly changed. Facing Han Fei's golden fist light, he didn't dodge but resisted it with his body. At the same time, his fists also punched out dozens of fist light. Different from Han Fei's golden fist light, Ren Tianfei's fist light was extremely violent and murderous. Even the light was crimson, making him look like a villain. Boom, 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 BM, BM, BM in the cave, fist shadows were everywhere and the murderous intent was overwhelming. On the rock wall, there were fist marks left by these two people everywhere. However, Han Fei was still much weaker, and the golden fist light couldn't resist Ren Tianfei's violent crimson fist light at all. Boom! Han Fei hit the wall again, and his whole body was embedded in it. Han Fei said angrily, Old B** starred, you're still using the power of a hanging fisher. You're cheating and bullying the weak. How shameless! Ren Tianfei sneered. You're bullying me? How can you still say such naive words at this moment? In this world, who cares about fairness? The bigger the fist, the more the truth. Han Fei was a little speechless. It turned out that Ren Tianfei and Old Bai had the same idea. The bigger the fist, the more the truth. Han Fei curled his lips and said, The bigger the fist, the more the truth, right? Come on, let's see whose fist is bigger. Majestic mystic spell. Han Fei's momentum soared, surging energy flowed, and his vitality covered the entire cave. Han Fei grinned hideously. Let's see if you can defeat me with just a drop of blood, you old B** starred. A big secret skill? Kid, you know quite a lot of things. As soon as the majestic mystic spell was activated, Han Fei's combat power was immediately raised to the peak. Even a creature as large as the abyssal water serpent had been beaten into submission by Yang Kai. "I'm invincible!" The golden fist light shot out again, the air exploded, and the spiritual energy on Han Fei's fist was exploding. In the air, not only was a white circle blasted out by Han Fei's punch, but also a flame was blasted out by him. Good. Boom, boom, boom. The red fist light was not weak at all. It punched back and forth with Han Fei more than a dozen times, sending rocks flying in the cave. One of the corpses was directly crushed by the fist wind because it happened to be in the path of the two fists. Bam! This time, Han Fei finally blasted Ren Tianfei back. Although this old B** starred only took a half step back, he still stepped back. But as soon as he took a half step back, Ren Tianfei's leg swept over. Han Fei raised his fist to block, but the next second, an elbow hit his chest, followed by a back kick. Han Fei felt as if he had been hit by a hill. Before he flew out, Ren Tianfei clasped his arm and pulled him back. Then, although Han Fei had great strength and a solid physique, Ren Tianfei, the old B** starred, used all kinds of fancy combat skills, such as elbow, finger, knee, head. Han Fei felt that this old B** starred seemed to be using every muscle in his body to the fullest. Ren Tianfei sneered while fighting. "What's the use of having invincible faith? I haven't fought enough. Take someone like you for example. I can crush you to the ground with one hand." Puff! Han Fei was sent flying by a finger. Han Fei was speechless. Under this series of moves, he didn't even have the power to resist. Of course, Han Fei wouldn't admit defeat. With a roar, he activated the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies. All kinds of weird postures that defied common sense were displayed. His reaction speed and combat skills burst out in an instant. This combat skill is not bad, but you are too slow. Slow, slow. Faster, faster. Why are you so slow? Boom. Han Fei only held on for half a minute before he was blasted into the rock wall again. Puff. Spurting out a mouthful of blood, Han Fei felt sore all over and cursed at Ren Tianfei. "I'll surpass you sooner or later." Han Fei's body shook and he jumped out of the cliff. When he was about to fight again, Ren Tianfei's body suddenly collapsed. He was in human form just now, but now he had become a phantom again. Ren Tianfei snorted. "Forget it. Your physique is not bad. Although your boxing skills are a bit poor, they're not bad. You barely passed the test." Han Fei. Chapter 507. Han Fei could tell that the power of Ren Tianfei's drop of blood was almost used up. After all, according to the intensity of the battle just now, most people might not be able to take 2 punches from Ren Tianfei. In this way, after a battle, Han Fei took out a large piece of sea cucumber and ate it heartily. Ren Tianfei was speechless. "Why are you still eating?" Han Fei snorted. "Only when I'm full will I have the strength to fight." Ren Tianfei grunted and pointed at the word test, and then the word began to break. Then, the rock wall began to shatter, gradually revealing a big hole behind the rock wall. Han Fei asked curiously, "What treasures did you leave for me? You should at least give me a few divine weapons, right?" "Divine weapons?" Ren Tianfei glanced at Han Fei contemptuously. "What you're going to do is to strengthen your body. No matter spiritual weapons or divine weapons, they will be no match for your body." Han Fei's eyes narrowed. "Really? I can't even resist the sword currents outside the cave. Do you mean that when I practice the indestructible body, my body can resist divine weapons?" Ren Tianfei looked at Han Fei with a faint smile. "Relatively speaking, not to mention divine weapons, I can even fight sea-quelling bizarre treasures with my bare hand." Hiss! Han Fei immediately took a breath. He didn't even know what a sea-quelling bizarre treasure was. He just guessed that the embroidery needle might be a weapon of that level. Suddenly, Han Fei took out the embroidery needle and inserted it into the ground. "Is this a sea-quelling bizarre treasure?" Ren Tianfei's eyes widened. He stepped forward and looked at the rusty stick. After thinking for a long time, he asked in confusion, "Where did you get it?" Han Fei said, "Have you heard of the rock-holding turtle? I plucked it from its back." Ren Tianfen grinned. "Have you ever met a rock-holding turtle?" Ren Tianfen tapped the embroidery needle with his finger and thought for a moment. "It should be a sea-quelling bizarre treasure. However, you can barely use it now, right? You can only use this stick as an ordinary stick, right? Don't show it to others in the future. Is it really a sea-quelling bizarre treasure? How can I make it recognize me as its master?" Han Fei's eyes lit up. "I can't even use 10% of the embroidery needle's power? How strong would he be if he used his full strength after he recognized him as his master?" Ren Tianfei scoffed. "You can't make a sea-quelling bizarre treasure acknowledge you as its master unless you can win its approval. If there comes a day when you can use it to unleash an earth-shattering attack, you might have a chance. However, with your current strength, I'm afraid you won't have a chance for now." Han Fei didn't care. "This rod is mine anyway. It will recognize me as its master sooner or later." Suddenly, Ren Tianfei's body flickered, and the old man suddenly said solemnly, "I'll talk and you listen. Don't interrupt." Ren Tianfen said, "Try to find a heaven-level, high-quality body tempering technique. You'd better get it done before you enter the 1,000-star city. Moreover, you have to practice well." "Why? I told you not to interrupt." Ren Tianfei continued, "If you keep practicing the indestructible body, the more you practice it, the harder it will be for you to hide your powerful physique and blood power, which will be extremely easy to be exposed. With your current strength, you will definitely go to the unknown place in the future. There are no fisheries there. Once you go to sea, it will really be a boundless ocean with no boundaries or limit. There are countless people from the 1,000-star city there. If you practice the indestructible body too well, you will be easily recognized, which is not good for you." Regardless of whether he interrupted or not, Han Fei hurriedly asked, "Old bastard, how many people have you offended? What will happen if others know that I practice the indestructible body?" Ren Tianfei said solemnly, "Consequences? The consequence is that you will be hunted down endlessly. Some people covet the indestructible body, and some fear it. Of course, it's not a big deal. The important thing is that the indestructible body involves a big secret, which you are not qualified to know yet. However, as long as you don't die, you will know it sooner or later. Remember, you must not expose it. Once exposed, escape immediately. Wander in the infinite ocean and come back when you are really strong." As Ren Tianfei spoke, the phantom was fading, and this time it was flickering. Han Fei hurriedly asked, Hey, did you leave me any other treasures? What's in the depths of this abyssal chasm? Can I explore it?" Ren Tianfei rolled his eyes at Han Fei. "Don't ask. When you came here, you should have encountered a secret realm too. Don't go in or you will die." Han Fei was shocked. "So dangerous?" Ren Tianfei's phantom had become very faint, and he finally said, "When you can break the barrier of the 3rd level of the indestructible body, you will be qualified to roam the unknown place. But don't come to the abyssal chasm again." Ren Tianfei's phantom disappeared, turned into a wisp of white smoke, and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. Han Fei was speechless. "You haven't told me whether there are other treasures." While Han Fei was talking, he was a little scared in his heart. According to what Ren Tianfei just said, when he could roam the unknown place, couldn't he explore the other 2 secret realms in the abyssal chasm? Han Fei took out the cauldron and stuffed it into his mouth, before he slowly recovered. "I can't even beat a drop of blood?" Han Fei couldn't help but shake his head. The strong masters in this world were still too terrifying. A drop of blood that had been released for 300 years was still so tough. Then, how strong was Ren Tianfei himself? What Han Fei didn't know was that millions of kilometers away, an angry old man suddenly opened his eyes. The first clone has disappeared? I'm going to have a disciple? Little bastard, I hope you can pass the next test. Han Fei put away the cauldron and walked to the cave behind him. As he walked, Han Fei rubbed his hands. The treasure land was built here. Ren Tianfei must have left some good things for me. I'm looking forward to it. Just when Han Fei was looking forward to what treasures there would be, when he stepped into the cave, he suddenly stepped into a huge underwater hole. Han Fei, what happened to the treasures? What happened to the divine weapons? Ren Tianfei, damn you, you old B***starred. Haven't I tested it? Why is there a follow-up test? This water cave was 4 or 5 times larger than the previous cave with a radius of 100 meters. When Han Fei saw that there was not even a stone here, he knew he was in trouble. When he saw the engraved array under his feet, he knew he was in trouble. Sure enough, the array under his feet glowed, and the whole water cave began to shake. Then, Han Fei felt that the water suddenly became very, very heavy. If the normal water pressure here was 1, then the water pressure at this time suddenly became 10. Shit! Han Fei could withstand 10 times the gravity. Of course, he could withstand it for a while. However, when he was put in this environment, it was a different story. Under 10 times the gravity, Han Fei's first reaction was to tense up his body, and his advantage in speed was immediately destroyed. Suddenly, Han Fei saw that in the center of the water cave, another Ren Tianfei emerged. Han Fei immediately said angrily, F***ck, why did you come out again? However, this Ren Tianfei was completely serious and his personality seemed to be completely different from the last one. This Ren Tianfei looked at Han Fei coldly. You're finally here. Now that you've passed the basic test, let's start the formal training directly. Training? What the hell? Han Fei hurriedly asked, Are you also transformed from a drop of essence blood? This Ren Tianfei's face was cold. I don't know what the last clone was like, but my task is to train you. So, I'll abandon all emotions and won't be polite to you at all. Don't pretend to be very heavy. Even an ordinary person can withstand 10 times the gravity in a short time, or even more. Since you've practiced the indestructible body art, it should be very easy for you. Han Fei was speechless. Easy? Why do you think I'm easy? This Ren Tianfei said coldly, A cultivator's physique will become stronger under multiple times the gravity. His learning ability and reaction ability will become stronger. The disadvantage is that the blood flow in the body will be suppressed. When the pressure increases, the speed will become very slow. However, these disadvantages are for ordinary people. You've practiced the indestructible body art, and your blood is like a tide. You only need to adapt to it a little to offset the disadvantages of blocked blood flow. In the end, the only thing left is the problem of speed. Han Fei gritted his teeth. So, the so-called treasure is for me to come here to cultivate? How long will it take? Ren Tianfei said, This array is called the 7 Stars Array. You will keep cultivating until you defeat me. F***ck, Han Fei was dumbfounded. What if I can't win? Then you'll keep cultivating here. Han Fei. Chapter 508. Han Fei was still trying to adapt to the 10 times gravity underwater, when Ren Tianfei said coldly, You have half an hour to adapt. Han Fei asked, What about half an hour later? Ren Tianfei said lightly, Start training. Han Fei was speechless. Is this so-called treasure really training? Did you really prepare a treasure for me? Ren Tianfei glanced at Han Fei lightly. You talk too much nonsense. I don't mind starting training now. Han Fei, shut up. This Ren Tianfei was completely different from the one just now. From this person, Han Fei felt nothing but indifference. Han Fei immediately began to move his body. If there was any way for Han Fei to quickly adapt to this kind of gravity environment, it must be the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies. Han Fei hadn't deliberately practiced the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies for a long time. When Han Fei made the first posture, Ren Tianfei was slightly surprised. Because he only had half an hour, Han Fei's movements were very fast. In the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, he had made 36 postures. Ren Tianfei suddenly said, "Your combat skill is very good. It can maximize the use of every muscle. Although this combat skill doesn't seem to be of a high level, it is very rare. You can practice it for an hour a day in the future." Han Fei grinned. "Is there a combat skill that you like?" Ren Tianfei said bluntly, "Combat skills have a great advantage in the early stage. Especially for people with low strength like you, a good combat skill can improve your combat ability and reduce the chance of your death." Han Fei asked, "Then what if my strength is not low?" Ren Tianfei continued, "At that time you will be absolutely crushed. No matter how brilliant your combat skill is, it is useless in the face of absolute strength." Han Fei snorted and didn't speak. When he finished practicing the 108 postures, Ren Tianfei came to 10 meters away from him. "Now the training begins." Han Fei asked, "Huh? You're going to start now?" However, instead of responding to Han Fei, Ren Tianfei directly punched at him. No weapons, only fists and combat skills. Seeing that Ren Tianfei threw a punch at him, Han Fei certainly had to fight back. However, as soon as he clenched his fists, he immediately felt that his speed couldn't keep up. Immediately, Han Fei tilted his head slightly and moved sideways. Unfortunately, his opponent was not an ordinary person, but a guy with an abnormally strong physique like Ren Tianfei. Bang! An elbow hit Han Fei's chest. Han Fei was sent flying and fell 7 or 8 meters away. Han Fei hurried to support himself with one hand and kicked at Ren Tianfei, who was coming at him again in a weird posture. But the latter grabbed his leg with one hand, pulled it, and slapped his chest. Bang! Han Fei flew out again. Before Han Fei's body landed, Ren Tianfei rushed at him again. Bang, bang, bang! He didn't know how many times he had been beaten, but his whole body was sore. Ren Tianfei kept saying, "Slow, too slow. Didn't you eat? Why is he so weak? Is your qi and blood not flowing smoothly? You can't even react? Are you a turtle? Even a turtle is faster than you. Get up!" Han Fei didn't know how long he had been abused. Anyway, he felt that his whole body had been hammered by Ren Tianfei. But up to now, he hadn't even hit him once. When a day passed, Ren Tianfei gave Han Fei an hour to practice the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies. 1 hour later, the battle continued. He didn't know how long it had been going on, but it should be about 10 days. Han Fei was not a person who would give up. This reminded him of when Jiang Qin trained him on the seabed. At that time, he was no different from now. He was abused by Jiang Qin for half a year. Half a month later, Han Fei had almost completely adapted to the situation of 10 times the gravity. He found that qi and blood could also be mobilized. Before, Han Fei had never thought about the problem of qi and blood. He only felt that his physique was very strong, his heartbeat was very strong, and his qi and blood were sufficient. But at this time, he found that when he wanted to attack, his qi and blood could actually be supplied in advance. At that moment, his speed would soar. Because of this, Han Fei could barely keep up with Ren Tianfei's rhythm. At this moment, after practicing the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies, Han Fei immediately rushed towards Ren Tianfei. He swept his leg, and under 10 times the gravity, a shadow was left behind. However, Ren Tianfei was faster. He leaned back slightly, turned to Han Fei's side, and hit Han Fei's stomach with his knee. Bam! Han Fei cursed. "Have you improved your strength to that of an advanced dangling fisher?" Ren Tianfei said indifferently, "Yes, so that you can improve quickly." Han Fei felt that there were 10,000 ironhead fish galloping in his heart. "This is too much. I finally adapted to the state and reached the reaction speed of an intermediate dangling fisher in the normal water, but this guy immediately improved his strength to that of an advanced dangling fisher." Han Fei said angrily. Do you think I believe you? You just want to hit me. However, Ren Tianfei's answer was also very straightforward. Yes, I just want to hit you. Han Fei. Another half a month later, Han Fei had completely ignored the 10 times gravity, and his qi and blood were as pure as fire. At this moment, not to mention hitting people with his fists, every muscle on Han Fei's body could burst out with tremendous power in an instant. At this moment, Ren Tianfei had become a peak-level dangling fisher, and Han Fei could only be beaten. Another 10 days passed. When Han Fei managed to adapt to Ren Tianfei's strength, this B** actually suppressed him with a mental shock. In the second month after entering the water cave, Ren Tianfei threw a piece of poison at Han Fei. Han Fei was stunned and cursed, "You are such a strong master. Why do you still use poison?" However, Ren Tianfei was also stunned. "What anti-poison fruit have you eaten? The poison here has no effect on you at all." Han Fei sneered. "Of course. I've eaten venomous tulip, and the poison in the level 3 fishery is basically ineffective on me." Ren Tianfei roared, "Then I'll continue to beat you." Ren Tianfei raised his strength again, which was already the power of a hanging fisher. But Han Fei sneered. "Hey! You can improve your strength, but I also have a secret method. I've been beating you for 2 months. Today, I'll let you taste the feeling of being beaten." Majestic Mystic Spell. Han Fei hadn't used it before, because he knew he was training. After being beaten for 2 months in a row, Han Fei felt that the 10x gravity was nothing to him, and he didn't need Ren Tianfei to train with him anymore. "I'm invincible." In the blink of an eye, the golden fist mark punched out hundreds of times. The seawater was blasted apart and was boiling. Ren Tianfei was slightly taken aback. "Are you in a hurry to go out?" Han Fei scolded. "I don't want to be beaten by you." Ren Tianfei said lightly, "Well, then you can go out." After saying this, Ren Tianfei turned from a real person to a phantom, and then the phantom disappeared. Han Fei was stunned. "That's it? Isn't it 2F** King casual?" While Han Fei was still stunned, the water cave collapsed, seawater flowed out, and the 7-star array on the ground began to shatter. Caw. Han Fei found a door on the ground. Looking at the mottled, manhole-like door, Han Fei frowned. Will there be a third Ren Tianfei later? When the gravity completely disappeared, Han Fei suddenly felt extremely light. He felt that he was floating, and as long as he tiptoed, he could jump hundreds of meters away. Han Fei knew that he couldn't waste any more time. It had been more than 2 months since he entered the abyssal chasm, and there were only 5 months left before the 1-year deadline. He wondered if Zhang Xuanyu and Xia Shaochan had met up. Han Fei pulled up the mottled door with one hand with a gloomy face. In the end, this casual grab actually tore the millstone-like stone door into pieces. Wow. I've become much stronger. However, this time, Han Fei's eyes lit up, because he saw the chair and the stone platform, as if someone had lived here. Han Fei jumped into the door without hesitation and looked around. It turned out to be a large room with an area of less than 100 square meters. Among them, the most conspicuous thing in the room was a large pool, which was 3 meters in radius. In the pool there was bright red pool water. When Han Fei saw the pool of water, he was shocked. The energy was too violent. He just stood here and breathed for a while, but he felt that there was surging energy into his body. F***CK, Candle Dragon Blood? So much? Chapter 509. Han Fei's attention was immediately attracted by the candle dragon blood. It was like placing a luminous pearl in the dark night, so dazzling. Gulp. Han Fei's eyelids twitched. This is crazy. Has Ren Tianfei killed a dragon before? This is too exaggerated. There is a pool of candle dragon blood. Previously, in the gate of the hexagon starfish, a drop of candle dragon blood turned him into a round fatty. Here, there is a F** king pool. If he absorbed all of it, Han Fei felt that he would definitely explode. There was no other possibility. Who? Han Fei took a deep breath, full of confusion. The energy of the entire abyssal chasm had been absorbed. Why was the candle dragon blood here safe and sound? The only explanation that Han Fei could think of was that Ren Tianfei was too strong and the seal he set was too strong. Even the mysterious suction force of the abyssal chasm couldn't absorb any energy from here. Han Fei moved his eyes away with difficulty and looked around the room. At first glance, he could tell that this room was forcibly smashed from the outside. There were huge fist marks on the rock wall, which was very in line with Ren Tianfei's style. In the corner of the room, there was a large bed on a stone platform, covered with some crushed dry seaweed. Beside the bed was a stone table against the wall, and there were some fish skins on the stone table. Except for these two things, Han Fei didn't see anything else. On the rock wall opposite the bed, there was a 5-meter-big fist mark sunken in the rock wall. Han Fei sneered. "Are you crazy? You punched out such a big fist mark in your living place? Is it a decoration?" Han Fei didn't care about the fist mark. His first goal was naturally not the fish skin or the fist mark, but to find the treasures Ren Tianfei left for him. But there was nothing else here. The only thing that was on the stone table was the same as a feather in the mantis shrimp's cave. This was the same as the mantis shrimp cave. Could it be that this guy had left a set of cultivation methods for him? Han Fei hurriedly walked forward and found that there were only 3 fish skins on the table. One fish skin was painted with a picture, which seemed to be a floating island. The other fish skin was written with notes, which seemed to be left for him. There was also a fish skin with a big fist drawn on it. Han Fei's face turned green. He felt that he was about to burst into flames. "I've worked so hard to come to this place, and this is what you show me?" Han Fei tried to suppress his anger and picked up the fish skin with words on it. To think that you haven't fallen yet." Han Fei was lost for words when he read the first sentence. "You want me to die, don't you?" Skipping the first sentence, he continued to read. "Since you can enter the abyssal chasm and come here, it means that you should have become a hanging fisher. Otherwise, you won't be able to pass the first 2 tests. However, since you're here, it means that you're quite talented. Now let me tell you a few things. First of all, I didn't leave you with any random divine weapons, nor do I have any so-called battle technique. Since you've already come this far, the second barrier must have been broken. As for the indestructible body, my first clone should have already told you about it, so I won't say anything more. Why did I let my first clone tell you? That's because if you didn't meet my standards, you wouldn't have had the chance to meet my second clone. Now that I've met you, it means that you're already my disciple. F***ck off. You've beaten me for 2 months. Is this how you teach your disciple? Don't let me catch a chance. I'll beat you up." Then, Ren Tianfei finally got down to business. He said, "When you find that you'll need a lot of energy to break the second barrier of the indestructible body. The stronger the indestructible body is, the more energy it needs. The 30 drops of candle dragon blood in the pool are reserved for you. After you absorb it for the first time, you'll become very fat. I think you should know that. At that time, you were too weak to absorb a lot. But with your current physique, you can completely absorb a drop of candle dragon blood. Remember, use the candle dragon blood when necessary. It's best to save about 10 drops to break the 3rd barrier of the indestructible body." Han Fei was taken aback. "Are you kidding me? There are only 30 drops of candle dragon blood in such a big pool? Doesn't that drop of blood weigh dozens of kilograms?" Han Fei was speechless. He thought that a drop of candle dragon blood was the size of a small water droplet. How could he use it? He couldn't just say, "Wait a minute, let me drink a mouthful of blood." Han Fei shuddered when he imagined that scene. It would be too embarrassing. Ren Tianfei continued, "You don't need to break the 3rd barrier of the indestructible body quickly. You just need to practice as usual. Cultivate your flesh and blood, cultivate your bones. One day, when you find that your bones are white and glowing and all the impurities are gone, it means that you've reached the third barrier. Han Fei bore that in mind. The second barrier of the indestructible body was already strong enough. Then, how strong would the third barrier be? Then, Ren Tianfei said solemnly, although I didn't leave you any divine weapons, I left you a punch. I guarantee that you'll be invincible in the unknown place. Han Fei's eyes immediately lit up. That's too arrogant. I don't even dare to say that I'll be invincible in the unknown place with the art of invincibility. You just left me a big fist mark and a map, and you think you'll be invincible in the unknown place? Ren Tianfei didn't continue but said, when you break the third barrier of the indestructible body, you and I will meet again. By the way, good luck. He didn't say much. He had said everything he needed to say. The so-called treasures of this old B** starred were the 30 drops of candle dragon blood and a big fist mark. But Han Fei was a little puzzled. What did the floating island on the other fishskin map mean? Han Fei didn't immediately study the big fist mark, but picked up the map with the floating island. On the map, a floating island stood in the sky. Below the floating island was an ocean, and above the floating island was a layer of clouds. Wait! Suddenly, Han Fei's heart did a flip. He saw a pair of inconspicuous eyes that seemed to be like clouds in the clouds. When Han Fei's eyes met the eyes in the clouds, he suddenly had goosebumps all over his body, and a sense of horror involuntarily arose in his heart. There are secrets above the clouds. Han Fei gasped and didn't look at the eyes again. He just glanced at them, and he felt cold all over. His whole body was frozen, and he almost couldn't move. This old B** starred. He left a map but didn't explain things clearly. What did he mean by leaving this picture behind? And what is the eye above the clouds? Han Fei came back to himself. The feeling just now was more like a warning. But what did Ren Tianfei want to warn him about? Han Fei couldn't figure it out, so he could only put the map away for now. He thought that the city must be the 1,000-star city. He was still far away from the 1,000-star city. In the words of Old Bai, he had to stay in the unknown place for a few more years. After staying in the level 3 fishery for a year, Han Fei already felt that there were too many things to explore by himself. The unknown place was much more dangerous than the level 3 fishery, so there were naturally more things to explore. To the 1,000-star city? I'd better go back. At this point, Han Fei began to look at the big fist left by Ren Tianfei. Han Fei held the fish skin map and looked at the fist mark on the rock wall. He made a comparison, but he didn't seem to feel any difference. Staring at the fish skin map for a long time, Han Fei felt that it looked like a combat skill, but not like a combat skill. The demon purification pot didn't record it. Putting away the fish skin map, Han Fei ran to the rock wall and tried to punch the fist mark left by Ren Tianfei with his fist. However, the result was terrible. Han Fei felt that all the energy in his body was almost drained in the blink of an eye. The blood in his body, from head to toe, poured into the fist in a strange way. Boom! A fist shadow more than 5 meters in size burst out from Han Fei's fist and slammed into the fist mark on the rock wall. Puff! Han Fei immediately vomited a mouthful of blood and then exclaimed, "Secret method!" But at this moment, Han Fei couldn't care less. He sat on the ground, took out the big pot, and began to stuff himself with food. Now, Han Fei had learned to be smart. He always cooked a pot of yellow-blooded sea cucumber and put it in Forge the Universe. When he needed it, he would take it out and eat it. Anyway, it wouldn't go bad. After half an hour, Han Fei recovered and stared at his fist blankly. Just now, the energy in Han Fei's body was drained. Besides, it was not transmitted to the fist through the meridians, but from the flesh and bones, and then appeared on the fist. Han Fei's first feeling was that it was fast, and then powerful. However, the power of this strike had practically exhausted all of his energy. If he fought, suddenly, When Han Fei saw the candle dragon blood, he seemed to understand something. Chapter 5:10. Han Fei immediately realized that Ren Tianfei knew that this move was too domineering and would drain the energy in the user's body. Therefore, Ren Tianfei left 30 drops of candle dragon blood for Han Fei. At this time, Han Fei glanced at the demon purification pot, only to see the data in it. Sacrificing punch, heaven level, divine quality. Note: gather all the energy in the body in an invincible posture, supplemented by the deterrence of the soul, and make a self-sacrificing punch to reach the state of godlike. Shortcoming: after one punch, all the energy will be lost and must be replenished in time. Otherwise, serious wounds will be left. Deduction: cannot be deduced, can only be comprehended. Note: this fist technique is not invincible. The user must have the courage to sacrifice himself in order to become stronger. Hiss! Han Fei had a lot of mixed feelings. Although this sacrificing punch was not as good as his art of invincibility, it was shockingly powerful. Besides, it seemed to be extremely simple. All he needed to do was gather all the energy in the body in an instant and blast it out. However, there were actually two difficulties. First, how could he gather all the energy in the body in an instant? When he punched out, Han Fei felt that the energy was drawn away in an instant, and at the same time, the punch mark had already been blasted out. In terms of speed, it was even faster than the art of invincibility. Secondly, some people might be invincible, but it was hard to have the courage to make a self-sacrificing punch. Ordinary people would only have this kind of momentum when they were on the verge of death. This punch was infused with this aura, and it had the rhythm of risking one's life. That was why it was called the sacrificing punch. Han Fei grinned. This old B** starred doesn't seem to be bad. Although there didn't seem to be any divine weapons, spiritual fruits, combat skills, or arts here, he probably didn't know that Han Fei didn't lack those things at all. On the contrary, pure energy like the candle dragon blood was what Han Fei urgently needed now. He couldn't even imagine how terrifying it would be when he became a peak-level dangling fisher and used the majestic mystic spell with the power of that punch just now. After obtaining the sacrificing punch, Han Fei now had several killing moves. The more common one was the drawing technique. This move was strong enough, and Han Fei used it the most. The more extreme one was the sacrificing punch. When he used it, it would definitely be far more powerful than the drawing technique. After all, the drawing technique was not a sure kill attack. Counting the sky dissecting finger, the supreme yin-yang wheel, the majestic mystic spell, and the art of invincibility, Han Fei felt that he had too many unparalleled secret arts in the level 3 fishery. Han Fei had heard that Chun Aochen and Chao Tian's fists were invincible. Chao Tian once fought with him on the steps into the sea, but Chao Tian did not use his full strength at that time. At that time, when his sword-drawing technique was blocked, he knew that this person was very strong. At that time, Han Fei used both the draw technique and the majestic mystic spell. As for Chun Aochen, whom he had met earlier, he should be much weaker than Chao Tian. After all, he had been swept into the sea by his million-knife art. Although his current million-knife art was composed of a superb spirit saber, if Chun Aochen was really strong enough, he should have a way to break it. Han Fei couldn't help but grin. Invincible fists? Should it become invincible 3 punches now? No, no, no. The moment this idea formed in Han Fei's mind, he immediately threw it away. Why 3 punches of invincibility? How could he be invincible with 3 punches? It should be super 1 punch. So this is the mentality of the strong? With that, Han Fei put away the cauldron, got up, and went straight to the candle dragon blood pool. With a thought in his mind, the small pool in Forge the Universe that originally stored the spiritual spring shrank a little. Han Fei stretched out a finger and pointed at the candle dragon blood, and all the candle dragon blood in the pool disappeared. The moment the candle dragon blood disappeared, A huge, scorching energy instantly hit him. In the blink of an eye, the entire cave was filled. Shoot, Han Fei was stunned. What's going on? I just collected the candle dragon blood. Why did it suddenly burst out with such violent energy? As far as Han Fei's eyes could see, he was immediately filled with billowing flames. That's right, the moment the violent energy rushed out, it turned into raging flames. Its high temperature reminded Han Fei of the magma in the fiery mountain. Ha ha! Surprised? Do you think this is the end? It wasn't easy for me to find a disciple. How can I only leave a fist mark for you? Since you have broken the second barrier of the indestructible body art, I'll help you hone your bones. Old B** starred. Han Fei was speechless. Surprise my A**s. He was completely shocked. What the F***ck is this? Suddenly, cracks appeared under Han Fei's feet. Circles of weird patterns spread out with Han Fei as the center. Han Fei shouted, Old B** starred, what is this? However, as soon as Han Fei opened his mouth, flames rushed directly into his mouth, and then came out of his nostrils. Old B** starred, you're too much. You should have given me some F***king time to prepare. However, Ren Tianfei was nowhere to be seen. There was no sound at all, as if it wasn't Ren Tianfei who spoke just now. Asshole! Han Fei was speechless. This guy seemed to have just left a mechanical voice here, and there was no third clone at all. The flames around him were getting more and more intense. Han Fei's clothes were instantly burned up at the moment the flames ignited just now. He wanted to put on an ultra-quality battlesuit, but then he thought that since there was no one here anyway, he might as well put on the clothes and heat himself. If the clothes were burned, it wouldn't be worth it. After 5 minutes, the temperature of the flames stabilized, but Han Fei didn't feel good at all. It was so F***king hot. At this time, Han Fei's skin had begun to crack. It had only been 100 breaths. Ho! Han Fei remembered that when he pretended to be the black and white ghosts, he kept saying that he would cook people. Now, it had turned into roasting people. However, the target of the roasting was himself. Crack, chilla. His flesh and blood were constantly cracking, and magma began to gush out from under his feet. Han Fei felt that his eyes were almost burned blind. While covering his eyes, Han Fei struggled to watch the magma pouring into this space. F***ck. Ren Tianfei, you bastard. You can't pass without killing me, can you? Don't let me be stronger than you in the future. Otherwise, I'll stew you. Han Fei felt that his flesh and blood were being burned. He had to sit down immediately and begin to practice the indestructible body art. Repeatedly tempering the skin, flesh, bones, and blood was the cultivation method of the indestructible body art. When his body was about to collapse, what came next was a terrifying vitality. Han Fei didn't know where this vitality came from. Did it belong to him? He didn't have time to think about this and took out dozens of spiritual fruit. However, the moment the spiritual fruits were taken out, they had already been vaporized. The billowing spiritual energy and the flames melted together. Han Fei closed his eyes tightly. Different from Ren Tianfei, his indestructible body art relied entirely on vitality to recover himself repeatedly. At this time, Han Fei's meridians were intact and he was absorbing spiritual energy as usual. So, wouldn't it be stupid not to use spiritual energy? Half an hour later, Han Fei's flesh and blood were wriggling and his bones were shockingly hot. But this was not the point. Han Fei was shocked to find that his eyelids had been burned off. At this moment, Han Fei felt terrible. I can't make my eyeballs indestructible, can I? How horrible would it be if someone poked my eyeballs with an ultra-quality spiritual weapon? In an instant, Han Fei took out 2 high-quality spiritual stones and stuck them to his eyes. I don't care about anything else, but my eyes can't be damaged. So, a massive amount of spiritual energy shrouded Han Fei's eyes. An hour later, Han Fei felt that he couldn't hold on any longer. His bones were not like bones but seemed to be injected with magma. Besides, his meridians were breaking. Han Fei took out dozens of spiritual fruits, trying to repair his meridians. For a moment, Han Fei was in a stalemate with the flames. At this moment, Han Fei didn't dare to have any other thoughts. Ren Tianfei thought he didn't have meridians, but in fact he did. Therefore, the way he practiced the indestructible body art was different from his. Ren Tianfei could temper his body crazily, but Han Fei couldn't. He needed balance, so every 2 hours, Han Fei would throw out dozens of spiritual fruits to stabilize and repair his meridians. The same was true for the spiritual stones on his eyes. Every once in a while, Han Fei would stick 2 high-quality spiritual stones on his eyes. One day later, Han Fei was as skinny as a dry man, and his bones were glowing. From time to time, he was still emitting spiritual energy. Han Fei's meridians were the same. They were glowing like crystal veins, dazzling. 2 days later, Han Fei's bones became extremely pure and smooth, as if they had been smeared with oil. But Han Fei didn't pay attention to his bones. His eyes were very sore. Although they were protected by spiritual energy, the dazzling flames had been burning around him, making him completely blind. 3 days later, Han Fei's meridians were no longer like meridians, but like liquid bones. What was flowing in them was no longer spiritual energy, but a spring of spiritual energy. After the 3rd day, the flames were dimming. 7 days later, the flames finally disappeared from this space. After a long time, Han Fei suddenly opened his eyes. In an instant, 2 flaming rays spurted out like 2 lasers. Chapter 511. Han Fei was dumbfounded. What the hell is this? Superman? However, the 2 beams of light in his eyes soon disappeared. Han Fei saw nothing but redness in front of him. Everything he could see was red. This strange scene lasted for a long time before it gradually faded away. Vitality was surging out of his body, and his wounds were recovering at an extremely fast speed. About half an hour later, Han Fei got up and looked at his data instead of looking for a way out. Owner Han Fei level greater than 39, advanced dangling fisher, spiritual energy, spiritual power, perception range greater than 5,000 meters, spiritual heritage, level 5, high quality spiritual beast, twin yin-yang spirit swallowing fish, level 30, main art, void breaking technique, volume 4 of void fishing, demon level, divine quality. Han Fei was slightly stunned when he saw the data. His upper limit of spiritual energy had reached a new height. Although his spiritual power had only increased by 2 points, it seemed to have broken the barrier. Had it reached a new height too? Hiss! Han Fei was rather speechless. Was it because of the growth brought by his cultivation in the past 2 months, or the changes brought by the fire tempering this time? But whatever, he had to avenge himself on Ren Tianfei because he was almost burned to death. Damn it, it was such a big fright. If he didn't have any tricks, his meridians would have been melted. By then, he would have been crippled even if he didn't die. Damn old B****, do you think everybody is like you? Han Fei looked up, only to find that the hole he came in through was long gone. The rock walls around had many big cracks because of the appalling temperature. Among them, the biggest crack was the fist mark on the wall. It was dark behind it, and it seemed to be a passage. Is this old B*** going to set me up again? Han Fei was very uncertain. Originally, he had planned to take the candle dragon blood and go out in a good mood. But he didn't expect that there would be a follow-up. If there was one, there would be a second time. Han Fei was very worried about Ren Tianfei. The old B** was always up to no good. While Han Fei stared at the dark crack, he suddenly found that the darkness became as bright as day, and he saw a winding road leading to nowhere. Hiss! No, there's something wrong with my eyes. Han Fei quickly took out his knife and used it as a mirror to look at his own eyes for a long time. However, no matter how he looked, he found that his eyes were normal. Could it be that the yin-yang divine eye has also advanced? That's not right. Isn't the yin-yang divine eye supposed to appear after the fusion of little black and little white? Unfortunately, there was no comparison here. Han Fei couldn't tell if his eyes had changed at all. Judging from the current situation, it seemed that only his vision in the dark had become clearer. There was no other difference. The road still had to be walked. After all, this was the only path left. But Han Fei knew that it wouldn't be that simple. So, a battle suit immediately appeared on his body, and a spiritual energy protective cover covered his body. Stepping into the darkness. No, into the path that looked dark but was actually bright, the scene in front of Han Fei changed. Illusions appeared in front of him, and a large group of large green crabs rushed toward him. I knew it couldn't be anything good. Han Fei grinned but didn't take action, because he found that there was no information in his eyes at all. It meant that everything in front of him was fake. However, when the first big green crab bumped at him and clamped Han Fei's arm with its two pincers, Han Fei's face suddenly changed. Impossible! Han Fei was instantly horrified. He felt pain and collision. Were these crabs real? That was impossible. These were just the most common big green crabs, which could be found everywhere in ordinary fisheries. Why did they give him such a real feeling? Han Fei looked down at his feet and then back at the cave, only to find that everything was there. This didn't seem to be an illusion. How is it possible? Han Fei was a little stunned. This didn't make sense at all. If this was just a regular big green crab, it was impossible that he couldn't see any information. Bam! It was almost impossible for a big green crab to hurt Han Fei. Han Fei punched out casually, and hundreds of big green crabs that came from behind were directly shattered by Han Fei's punch. However, after they were shattered, Han Fei saw that the shattered big green crabs turned into countless crystal light spots and dissipated on the road. But then, a large number of little white fish and big yellow fish were surging forward. It's fake! Han Fei was very sure. Although he didn't know why these ordinary creatures gave him a real feeling, Han Fei was 100% sure that they were all fake. Otherwise, if they were real, they would have turned into broken crab shells and corpses all over the ground. How could they just turn into a large area of light spots and dissipate? So, Han Fei was ready to take the initiative to move forward. He wanted to see what mysteries lay behind this path. However, when Han Fei took a step forward, for some reason, he felt much more relaxed. Something in his heart seemed to have become clear. Huh? Is there something wrong with this road? Han Fei wasn't quite sure. He just felt that it was comfortable after he stepped out, and he wanted to continue moving forward. Boom! Smashing the big yellow fish with a punch, he stepped back and took a few steps forward. After only a few steps, the fish species coming at him changed. From big yellow fish to green turtles, blade fish, snake belts, Han Fei quickly moved forward, faster and faster. He found that he enjoyed this feeling very much. He felt that his heart became clear, and he wanted to smash all the obstacles in front of him. Yes, he wanted to clear all the obstacles. So, the swordfish, ballfish, spirit-swallowing fish, purple-tailed scorpions, and so on in the level 1 fishery were all smashed by Han Fei with a punch. Then, the strip fish, bony spurfish, dragonhead fish, lightning crabs, and so on in the level 2 fishery appeared one after another, only to be smashed by Han Fei's punches. Then, the anti-heaven blades, black moon sicklefish, mess-swallowing worms, and so on in the level 3 fishery. Han Fei walked faster and faster. In the blink of an eye, no less than 100 kinds of fish appeared and were smashed before him. At this moment, the inferior manfish appeared in front of Han Fei. It was exactly at the moment when the inferior manfish appeared that Han Fei found the road difficult to walk on. The road became narrower and narrower. Every step required a considerable amount of strength. Boom! At this moment, Han Fei realized that this was not an ordinary road at all. It seemed to be everything that he had encountered. The creatures that he had seen and heard were blocking his way. As a result, after killing the inferior manfish with the art of invincibility, Han Fei's whole body burst out with brilliant light. Because the road was getting narrower and narrower, and the creatures he saw were getting fiercer and fiercer, he needed to take the initiative to tear this road open. With the art of invincibility and the sacrificing punch, these two domineering divine skills made Han Fei only have the heart to move forward at this time. After he smashed a mermaid with the sacrificing punch, there was no way forward. In front of Han Fei was complete darkness, as if the road had been blocked. Or rather, it was like the world outside the existing space in Forge the Universe. Open! Han Fei punched crazily and punched at the darkness one after another. However, after tens of thousands of punches, Han Fei suddenly felt very tired, and the darkness was only opened up by him for more than 10 steps. Until a weird eye appeared in the darkness. Han Fei didn't know why he was angry. His eyes turned red, and he launched another sacrificing punch at the darkness. Swish! A suction force came over, and Han Fei suddenly opened his eyes, only to find that he was still in the cave, still sitting cross-legged on the ground. Huff, huff, huff. Han Fei gasped for breath, but his body suddenly stiffened. Because the crack in the fist mark on the wall was very small and shallow, only half a meter deep. Where did the path come from? Hiss! Where is the path? Han Fei quickly got up and ran forward. But the fact told him that it was just an ordinary crack, and there was no so-called path at all. Is it a dream? Han Fei froze for a moment, and it took him a long time to come back to himself. He quickly looked at his data again, but unfortunately, the data didn't change. But in his dantian, Han Fei found that there was a strange feeling in his dantian. When he looked inside, he found that a seed the size of a rice grain was floating there. Huh! What's this? Han Fei was very shocked. Why was there a seed in his dantian? Where did it come from? He immediately used his spiritual qi to pull the seed. However, his spiritual energy ignored this and always bypassed the seed. After several attempts, Han Fei found that he couldn't shake this seed at all. Fortunately, this thing didn't seem to be a threat, so he simply let it go. At this time, Han Fei looked up, and the cave he came in was still there. Sure enough, it was just a dream. Chapter 512. This time, Han Fei was sure that all the treasures left by Ren Tianfei had been taken by him. When he went out, he entered the cave where he first came from and saw the corpses that were still lying or embedded in the rock wall. Outside the cave, those white sword marks were still swaying and wandering slowly. Oh, it seems that there will be no more treasures in the future. This time, Ren Tianfei didn't leave anything else, nor did he leave any treasures for Han Fei in the unknown place. Han Fei knew that when he broke the third barrier of the indestructible body art, he would be able to see this old guy. However, it didn't seem to be here, but in the Thousand-Star City or somewhere else. Han Fei didn't intend to go out immediately. He still had one more thing to do. He already had 5 creatures, and it was time to fuse his third contractual spiritual beast. In the demon purification pot, 5 creatures lined up in a row. An exotic iron wall lobster with 2 big pincers that could be separated from its body and were very hard. A mysterious mutant devilfish that could create fear. An exotic snake-tentacled shark-faced octopus with 9 big heads and strong attack power. Han Fei really wanted to get rid of this thing and find another creature that he could fuse with. An exotic divine seaweed octopus that could control seaweeds remotely. An exotic abyssal water serpent that was about to turn into a flood dragon with amazing defense power. Looking at these creatures, Han Fei felt that after this fusion, he would definitely be able to create a super strong creature, but he didn't know if it could surpass the legendary level. After all, Little Gold was already a legendary ultra quality. Back then, although the 5 creatures that fused with Little Gold were all exotic creatures, none of them were mysterious, right? Besides, there was no big octopus that could talk, nor was there an abyssal water serpent that seemed to have a dragon bloodline. Demon purification pot demons. Iron wall lobster, mutant devilfish, snake-tentacled shark-faced octopus, divine seaweed octopus, abyssal water serpent consumption. 300,000 points of spiritual energy fusion result. Unknown. Do you want to fuse? Han Fei was slightly taken aback. Something seems wrong. When he fused with the nine-tailed mantis shrimp, it only cost him 10,000 points of spiritual energy. When he fused with Little Gold, it cost him 500,000 points, which was 50 times higher. But at this moment it only cost him 3 million points, which was only 6 times more than when he fused with Little Gold. Huh? There's no pattern to it. Could it be that these lifeforms aren't of a high enough level? Han Fei frowned slightly. Forget it. Since when did he have the right to look down on a creature with 3 million points of spiritual energy? In the past, he wouldn't have dared to even think about it. Fuse. After about 10 minutes, Han Fei was suddenly pressed down by something. It was soft and squishy. When he touched it, it was still a little sticky, as if his body was smeared with a layer of oil. Han Fei quickly lifted the thing that covered his head. After a long time, he was stuck by a big sucker. Han Fei didn't know what to say. Suckers? Tentacles? Octopus? For a moment, Han Fei felt that a dragon bumped into his chest. Why an octopus? Although there were 2 octopuses among the fused creatures this time, both of them were hideous. A monstrous octopus that was simply ugly beyond the horizon. It was a divine seaweed octopus. Its entire body was green and disgusting. Han Fei was desperate. Why did I synthesize such a thing? It would be good if you could turn into a big snake. Anyway, it was handsome. Just like the abyssal water dragon. How handsome! An octopus? How ugly it must be! After struggling for a long time, Han Fei finally broke free from the suckers and crawled out from under the big octopus. He was dumbfounded when he saw this thing. In front of him, 2 big eyes were staring at him. Moreover, the colors of these 2 eyeballs were different. One of them was blue, an extremely clear blue, while the other was red. At this moment, both of them were staring at him. Except for the eyes, this big octopus was entirely dark red. Han Fei's heart sank when he saw this color. However, the only thing that relieved him was that its tentacles didn't mutate and its head was a normal octopus head. Whew! Han Fei was relieved. He could accept it as long as it wasn't a monstrous octopus. Of course, it wasn't good-looking. The 9-tailed mantis shrimp was very handsome. Little Gold was also very cool. As for this guy, it was just a fat ball. There was nothing special about it. A string of information popped up in his eyes. Contractual spiritual pet. Name 9-death soul-splitting octopus. Introduction: an ancient mutant with an extremely weak bloodline of a divine beast. The suckers have the ability to absorb spiritual energy, and essence blood. The 9-death soul-splitting octopus has extremely strong spiritual power. It can ignore the spiritual attacks of all creatures within 10 levels higher than itself. It has infinite strength, can offset 90% of the attack when it is attacked, and has a super strong self-healing ability. Level 38 quality legendary, can grow, contains spiritual energy 4888 food carnivorous, prefers shrimps and crabs, battle skills, limb rebirth, blood rebirth. Note: in its ultimate state, the host can share the blood rebirth with the 9-death soul-splitting octopus and can only be used 9 times in a lifetime. Life sharing is temporarily unavailable. Shoot! Han Fei was shocked. This thing was quite powerful. It could ignore spiritual attacks? It could offset 90% of the attack when it was attacked? There seemed to be no limit to the broken limb rebirth? Blood rebirth? This was AF** King Undying Divine Technique. Wow. Han Fei's eyes widened. Good heavens, I can be undying too. Didn't this mean that he had 9 extra lives? He didn't know when the ultimate state would be, but it was awesome anyway. F*ck, F*ck. Han Fei's eyes immediately narrowed. The more he looked at this big octopus, the more he liked it. They were both ultra-quality, but Little Gold was much worse than the 9 death soul-splitting octopus. Han Fei couldn't help but giggle. This was a great surprise. Besides, it seemed that other people could only have 2 contractual spiritual beasts, but he already had a third. It seemed that the restriction effect of contractual spiritual beasts didn't work on him. Just when Han Fei was dumbfounded, a voice suddenly rang. How silly! Who's there? Han Fei's first reaction was to look elsewhere. However, he suddenly shivered and stared at the big octopus. Are you talking? Yes. Hiss. Han Fei gasped hard. Damn it. Contractual spiritual beasts can talk too? Damn it, the 9-tailed mantis shrimp and Little Gold couldn't talk. Han Fei asked, Why can you talk? The big octopus glanced at Han Fei with its 2 eyes as if saying, I don't want to talk to you. Han Fei could clearly feel the feeling of being despised. Because its eyes were crooked, clearly telling Han Fei that it was arrogant and didn't want to talk to him. Han Fei frowned immediately. Hey, you're too much. I'm your master. You have to give me some respect. The big octopus glanced at Han Fei again, and its body began to slowly shrink, finally shrinking to only half a meter in size. Take me back. The big octopus looked at Han Fei with its crooked eyes, making Han Fei want to slap it. Han Fei said to himself, It's mine. After all, it's mine. Calm down. Han Fei snorted. You haven't met your brother yet. You can get to know each other first. Then Han Fei summoned the 9-tailed mantis shrimp and Little Gold. All of a sudden, the 3 legendary creatures stood in a triangular formation, staring at each other. Little Gold was a little silly. With a flap of his wings, he rubbed against Han Fei. The 9-tailed mantis shrimp was an ADHD teenager. When he saw the 9 death soul-splitting octopus, he directly approached it, forcing the big octopus to shrink its head back. Go away. Smack. The big octopus slapped at him with its tentacles, and the 9-tailed mantis shrimp was sent flying and rolled many times on the ground. How could the 9-tailed mantis shrimp stand this? When it saw that this thing actually dared to hit it, it immediately rushed forward with a whoosh, and its 2 sweeping limbs swung out with a whoosh. In Han Fei's eyes, the big octopus stretched out 2 tentacles. In an instant, it was beaten into its body by the 9-tailed mantis shrimp. However, 2 tentacles immediately entangled the 9-tailed mantis shrimp. Immediately afterward, the big octopus' whole body was glued to the 9-tailed mantis shrimp. The suckers of the octopus were so tight that the tentacles hung on the 9-tailed mantis shrimp's sweeping limbs, and the 9-tailed mantis shrimp couldn't even move. However, the 9-tailed mantis shrimp was not weak either. The 9-star chain was thrown out and buckled the big octopus. For a moment, the 2 of them rolled into a ball. Seeing this, Han Fei hurriedly said, Okay, 9-tailed mantis shrimp, let go. Little fatty, stop too. The 9-tailed mantis shrimp seemed to feel that he couldn't deal with this thing, so he obediently stopped, and the big octopus clung to the 9-tailed mantis shrimp. Change your name. Han Fei sneered. You don't like it? Little fatty is such a noble name. You don't like it? The big octopus glanced at Han Fei. Change. Han Fei thought to himself, I'm not used to your bad temper. Do you dare to challenge your master? Don't push your luck. Come back. With a thought from Han Fei, the 9-tailed mantis shrimp and Little Fatty disappeared into his body. Little Gold tilted his head and looked at him stupidly, and then disappeared into Han Fei's body. Han Fei clicked his tongue. 3. If I get a few more contractual spiritual beasts of this level, will I be able to retire? The author said, the 3rd contractual spiritual beast has appeared. Please forgive my hobby of naming. The climax of the level 3 fishery is coming. What will happen next? Listen to the next chapter. End of this chapter. Chapter 5:13. Han Fei tested the attachment state of Little Fatty. After calling it 2 or 3 times in a row, Little Fatty reluctantly attached itself to him. Besides, Little Fatty's attachment state was also strange. The 9-star chain appeared in the 9-tailed mantis shrimp, Little Gold had wings, and Little Fatty's attachment state turned out to be 2 eyes. Han Fei was stunned. The problem was that the 2 eyes were shadows that grew on his shoulders. As a result, Han Fei could see everything without any blind spots. As for the octopus tentacles, they didn't appear at all. Only when Han Fei wanted to attack with his tentacles would he stretch out his tentacles from the void. After sensing it for a while, Han Fei knew why Little Fatty was said to be very strong. He had taken out a middle-grade spirit artifact shield, but it had been strangled by its tentacles, causing the shield to explode. Han Fei could directly feel how strong it was at that moment. It was probably no less than a full-strength blow without the majestic mystic spell. Han Fei was satisfied with this because this was just a test he did casually. If it was a real battle, the destructive power should be far more than this. Of course, there were also shortcomings. Little Fatty's attack speed was not fast, not as fast as the 9-star chain, and certainly not as fast as Little Gold. But in close combat, even the 9-tailed mantis shrimp and Little Gold combined might not be as powerful as Little Fatty. There were advantages and disadvantages. In general, Han Fei was very satisfied. However, what made Han Fei a little speechless was that when he wanted to attach the 9-tailed mantis shrimp, Little Gold, and Little Fatty at the same time, a problem occurred. No matter how Han Fei tried, the final result was that he could only attach 2 at the same time. Once 2 of them were already attached, he couldn't call out the third one no matter how hard he tried. Sure enough, Han Fei realized that he was not omnipotent. Why did most people only have 2 contractual spiritual beasts? There must be a reason. At least, he could switch between them. Everyone could only attach 2 contractual spiritual beasts to themselves during the battle. If he counted his spiritual beasts, he would have 3. In fact, this was reasonable. Otherwise, if he had 10 or 8 contractual spiritual beasts in the future and could attach them all, wouldn't he become a freak? After leaving the cave, the sword marks swimming in the sea seemed to have found their target and instantly surged towards him. This time, Han Fei ignored them and swam back with the big shield. As for the deeper regions, he didn't plan to go there. Now, Han Fei didn't have the ability to go. This time, the treasure land left by Ren Tianfei was not bad, which had greatly improved his strength in many aspects. Even so, he was still not strong enough. The sword currents outside were too terrifying. Even if he became a peak-level dangling fisher, he might not be able to reach the secret realm in the end. Since he couldn't go, he might as well not go. As for the mystic realm in front of him, he would think about it when he had the chance in the future. Forget it if you don't have a chance. There were so many mystic realms in the world, how could he explore all of them? On his way back, he passed by the dragon boat but didn't board it. The main reason was that he did not want to have too much contact with Xiao Sei and the Time Dragon cart. Little Time was still being fostered here, but Big Time was too terrifying and couldn't be provoked. If he went, he would probably lose a lot of food. It was not worth it. 3 days later, Han Fei swam across the Dead Sea. A series of strange events happened to him. He was hit by infrasonic waves several times, and was almost sucked into a big hole that suddenly appeared in the middle. Han Fei couldn't help but sigh. He didn't know what happened to Zhang Xuanyu and the others when they first went there and how many people went out. When he came here, he didn't know how he got here, so when he went out, he could only swim blindly. In particular, Han Fei encountered a lot of weird underwater vortexes and deep pits, where many strange creatures appeared. During the period, Han Fei also encountered a big exotic insect, which looked a bit like a mess-swallowing worm, but it was 2 or 3 times larger than a mess-swallowing worm. Besides, it had 2 heads and looked very creepy. Therefore, although it was an exotic creature, Han Fei beat it back with a punch and didn't intend to subdue it. After this fusion, little Fatty came out. Han Fei also realized that it was hard to fuse exotic creatures into creatures that were better than legendary ones. If he pursued perfection, then he would need to consider stronger creatures when he caught them later. At least, he had to start with exotic mutated creatures, and the mysterious ones were the best. In the end, with the help of Little White, it took Han Fei 2 days to get out. When Han Fei appeared in the Hurricane Sea, he no longer had time to look for the scattered treasures. For one thing, he didn't want to be involved in the abyssal chasm again. For another, he felt that there were other problems with the abyssal chasm. Why did he appear in the Dead Sea? That was also an unsolved mystery. Besides, Han Fei felt that the benefits in ordinary secret realms shouldn't be able to exceed the benefits he got. He didn't know where Zhang Xuanyu and the others were, so he had to meet them as soon as possible. Han Fei ignored the hurricane and directly controlled the fishing boat to go all the way out. He had wanted to refine another wind god boat. However, refining a wind god boat consumed a lot of spiritual energy. Besides, it didn't seem worth it to travel hundreds of thousands of kilometers. As long as he found Zhang Xuanyu or Xia Shaochan, he would naturally have a wind god boat. At the periphery of the abyssal chasm, after nearly 20,000 kilometers of the Hurricane Sea, that is, 50,000 kilometers away from the abyssal chasm, He Kaiyang was flipping through a fish skin map. Huh? That's not right. The location on the map is clearly here, but how can there be a secret realm here? Do I have to go deeper? He Kaiyang frowned, feeling a little embarrassed. If he went deeper, he would enter the Hurricane Sea. In everyone's opinion, as long as he entered the Hurricane Sea, he would enter the abyssal chasm. And the abyssal chasm was so famous that it was the most dangerous place in the level 3 fishery. No one would risk their life to go in. He Kaiyang gritted his teeth. Forget it. I can't go in. Just when He Kaiyang was about to leave, he was suddenly stunned. He saw a fishing boat flying out of the abyssal chasm on the sea. Wow. This person sure has gut. He Kaiyang hurriedly prepared to leave. As far as he knew, those who could survive the abyssal chasm couldn't be simple. However, before he ran far, he found that the fishing boat behind him had already chased him. He Kaiyang just wanted to avoid Han Fei, but he was not afraid. After all, he was quite confident that he dared to come to the abyssal chasm for treasure hunting. He was one of the top 3 dangling fishers in the Black Tortoise Town. He was one of the top 3 super experts in the Black Tortoise Town. His arrogance made him choose to avoid Han Fei. Seeing that Han Fei was close, He Kaiyang couldn't help but control the fishing boat to fly up curiously, trying to see who it was. However, when he saw it, he almost pissed his pants. Han Fei? Just when He Kaiyang exclaimed, a fishing line appeared on his fishing boat out of thin air. He Kaiyang immediately put away the fishing boat and crushed a flash stone. When Han Fei arrived, he was quite bummed. Isn't his reaction too fast? Xiao Bai, let's go after him. Half a day later, He Kaiyang hid in a trench, horrified. Han Fei disappeared in the abyssal chasm for more than 2 months. How did he come out? Wasn't it said that no one who entered the abyssal chasm could come out? Just when He Kaiyang was moving cautiously, he suddenly saw a gigantic octopus swimming close from 1,000 meters away. The octopus immediately stopped when it saw him. Then, the octopus's body gradually changed and melted into the environment. Huh? What a weird octopus! He Kaiyang's eyes glittered. He had run into a special creature. In the blink of an eye, he rushed to the place where the octopus disappeared at full speed. As he scanned with his senses, he found a stone-like creature that seemed to be peeping at him. It's definitely an exotic creature. I'm going to be rich. Just when He Kaiyang unleashed his attacks and slashed at it, he found that they were blocked by some rocks at the bottom of the sea. The octopus was going to run away. He couldn't allow it to run away. He immediately chased it, but a smooth stone on the ground suddenly bounced up and sucked him with an enormous suction force. He Kai-young was so shocked that his eyes almost popped out. He immediately took out a flash stone. But before he squeezed the stone, a fishing hook suddenly appeared in his hand and swept away the flash stone. In the next second, a golden fist smashed down. He Kai-young didn't even have a chance to defend himself. After the exploded seawater calmed down, he found that a person was standing 10 meters before him. "Hello, how are you?" Chapter 5:14. On the surface of the sea. He Kai-young sat on the boat obediently. He didn't know how Han Fei found him. However, from the beginning to the end, Han Fei only used one punch to defeat him easily. This made He Kai-young very discouraged. Although he knew that Han Fei wasn't an ordinary person, he was still devastated that he was defeated by an advanced dangling fisher so easily. At this moment, before Han Fei said anything, He Kai-young said, "I know what you want to ask." "I do." Han Fei's eyes glittered. "Then tell me. If I'm satisfied, I'll let you go." Knowing that he couldn't get away from Han Fei, He Kai-young could only tell him everything in detail. "You must want to know where your companions are, don't you?" Han Fei was briefly stunned. "You know my companions?" He Kai-young smiled bitterly. "Ever since you came out of the steps into the sea, the information about your companions has been publicized. It's suspected that someone bought the information from the Spectre and made it public." Han Fei was infuriated. "Someone did it on purpose? Damn it, don't let me catch you, or I'll kill you." He Kai-young said, "Now, almost everybody in the Level 3 fishery knows the Thug Academy. Except for you, the other 4 should be near the Seaborn Grassland." "The Seaborn Grassland?" Han Fei was stunned. "Are you saying that all 4 of them are there?" He Kai-young nodded. "Yes, all of them. At first, you caused great turmoil on the steps into the sea. Later, someone went to find you and ran into those who intended to kill you. After a battle, the man killed dozens of peak-level dangling fishers and fled with heavy wounds." Han Fei's eyes turned cold. "Who was it? Was it a man or a woman?" Han Fei was sure that it wasn't Xia Shaochan or Zhang Xuanyu. Xia Shaochan knew about it, but he deliberately avoided Xia Shaochan at that time. Zhang Xuanyu was even less likely. He had stayed in the abyssal chasm for so long and knew nothing about the outside world. So, there were only Lu Renquang and Luo Xiaobai left. It seemed that they had a great opportunity to kill dozens of peak-level dangling fishers in a row. Instead of beating around the bush, He Kai-young looked at Han Fei and said, "It was Lu Renquang." "Lu Renquang?" Han Fei nodded slightly. "And then?" Since He Kai-young said that Lu Renquang escaped with heavy injuries, he must have escaped. However, why were they all gathered in the Seaborn Prairie? He Kai-young. "Then, I'm not too sure about the specifics. However, half a month ago, someone on the wanted list seemed to have fought in the Seaborn Prairie, but nobody knew exactly what happened. He only knew that a person named Luo Xiaobai was suddenly fighting Mo Qianshang, who ranked first on the wanted list, in the Seaborn Prairie. After that, the battle became more and more intense. After developing for a few days, the other 4 appeared there except for you. They're still fighting." "Still fighting?" Han Fei found it hard to believe. What kind of battle lasted for more than half a month? He Kai-young seemed to know what was on Han Fei's mind. He said, "The turmoil in the Seaborn Prairie hasn't been completely settled. Also, it's a good place for prolonged battles and hiding. It's not strange that the battle has gone on for so long." Han Fei thought for a moment and asked, "They're still tied?" He Kai-young shook his head. "I don't know. Anyway, when I learned the news, many experts on the wanted list had gone there. Not only the people on the wanted list, but the dragon boat and the ghost boat also met there, and they even fought each other." Han Fei interrupted him. "No, wait a moment. Did you say that the dragon boats and the Spectre had an encounter?" He Kai-young nodded. "Yes. It was a 1 versus 2 battle. The Spectre fought the 2 dragon boats head-on. It was suspected that a hanging fisher expert took action. However, there were no casualties. It was just a brief encounter. Han Fei was slightly confused. That didn't make sense. Didn't they say that the dragon boats and the Spectre hadn't fought for 30 years? It seemed that the dragon boats had been traumatized by the battle. Why were the dragon boats so stubborn this time? Taking a deep breath, Han Fei asked, "Is there any more information?" He Kaiyang was silent for a moment. "I don't like to go there. However, there's something else that might be related to you." "About me?" He Kaiyang nodded. "The steps into the sea has become a dangerous place." Han Fei, He Kaiyang explained, "about half a month after you left, the steps into the sea gradually stabilized. However, a month ago, the steps into the sea suddenly rioted. A large number of creatures appeared out of thin air and fought with human beings. During the period, a divine weapon was born. Do you know what it means when a divine weapon is born? A lot of people died. In the end, it's still unknown who got the divine weapon. The divine weapon hasn't been found yet. However, many people dare not go to the steps into the sea anymore." Han Fei was lost for words. "What does that have to do with me? I didn't lose the divine weapon." However, Han Fei was quite depressed. A divine weapon? Where did it come from? All the good things were taken by him. He didn't even see a divine weapon on the real altar. How did a divine weapon pop up out of nowhere? Han Fei couldn't figure it out, so he stopped thinking about it. What he cared about now was not the steps into the sea, but the seaborne prairie. Thinking of something, Han Fei looked at He Kaiyang. "Do you have a wanted list?" He Kaiyang nodded and gave a booklet to Han Fei. "My wanted list was posted half a month ago. I don't know if it's useful to you." Han Fei nodded and suddenly looked at He Kaiyang. "Your sea-swallowing seashell." He Kaiyang's face stiffened. Then, like a deflated balloon, he gave the sea-swallowing seashell to Han Fei. However, at least he was relieved. Han Fei didn't seem to want to kill him, which was great. As long as he was alive, he could always get more sea-swallowing seashell. Without any hesitation, Han Fei set off for the seaborne prairie. On his way, he found that Lu Renquang was on the wanted list. Also, his ranking wasn't low. 21st on the wanted list. Name: Lu Renquang. Gender: male. Profession: armorous spiritual beast. Spiritual clam. Contractual spiritual beasts. Thousand-blade turtle, unknown, with the power to swallow everything. Specialties: violent, saber and sword. Ambidexterity, bloodthirsty broadsword, knife. Burial technique. Bounty: 3 million. Other rewards: 300 caddies of spiritual spring, a demon-level high-quality art, a high-quality spiritual weapon, and 300 spiritual fruits. Remarks: extremely dangerous. The strongest blow of the bloodthirsty broadsword is comparable to that of a hanging fisher. Remarks: one of the 5 members of the Thug legend. He is very strong. Kill him immediately if you meet him. He is suspected to have a legendary contractual spiritual beast. Han Fei was slightly surprised. Lu Renquang seems to be doing quite well. He has a new contractual spiritual beast, and it's a legendary one? Han Fei believed it immediately. What suspicions? It was definitely suspicions. Although the fatty seemed to be interested in everything, he only cared about the good ones. He had been looking for a stronger contractual spiritual beast for a long time. As for Luo Xiaobai, Han Fei didn't find her. After all, Luo Xiaobai didn't show up until half a month ago. At that time, He Kaiyang had already gone on an adventure, so he wasn't on the wanted list. The fishing boat under his feet was actually not slow. It was one of the best fishing boats Han Fei kept. It could travel about 33,000 kilometers in a day, about twice as slow as his wind god boat. However, Han Fei believed that since Xia Shaochan and the other 3 had gathered together, they wouldn't be able to escape. Few people in the entire level 3 fishery could beat them in a team battle. Back in the fiery mountain, Lu Renquang, Zhang Xuanyu, and Xia Xiaochan were able to defeat Li Hani's team of 5. Now that they were in the level 3 fishery and had their own opportunities, their strength was no longer what it used to be. Han Fei was not so worried anymore. 5 days later, Han Fei finally reached the edge of the seaborne prairie. However, when he was about 50,000 kilometers away from here, he had already changed his appearance and turned into a random passerby. Because 50,000 kilometers away, he found a dragon boat. Han Fei boarded the dragon boat. With the 1,000 faces technique, no one noticed him. His first goal was not to make a deal, but to find someone. There were 100 dragon boats in the level 3 fishery, and he only needed to find 2. One was the ship that he had boarded for the first time. However, after wandering around the trading market and finding that it wasn't, he immediately left the dragon boat. From start to finish, it didn't take more than the time for an incense stick to burn. At this moment, Han Fei saw another dragon boat 10,000 kilometers away from the seaborne prairie. There must be something wrong with the seaborne prairie. Otherwise, why would several dragon boats suddenly appear here? In the information trading hall of the dragon boat, the staff asked, "Excuse me, what do you want to buy?" Han Fei replied, "I want a copy of the wanted list and news about Emo Qianshang." Chapter 5:15. He wanted Emo Qianshang's information because Xia Xiaochan's information was too eye-catching. Since the battle in the seaborne prairie was still going on, it didn't matter who he found. After spending 10,000 mid-quality pearls, Han Fei got accurate information about Emo Qianshang. When Han Fei got the information, he found that He Kaiyang's information was too outdated. At this moment, the seaborne prairie had become a huge stopper. It was said that 1/3 of the experts on the wanted list had come. Besides, they were divided into several forces and had joined the battle. Why were they fighting? Because Luo Xiaobai and Emo Qianshang seemed to be competing for something. Luo Xiaobai didn't get all of it. It seemed that she and Emo Qianshang each got part of it. As a matter of fact, the experts on the wanted list were divided into several groups. Among them, Luo Xiaobai's team was in one group, Emo Qianshang and several experts on the wanted list were in another group, and the rest were divided into several teams. 2 days ago, Luo Xiaobai's team and Emo Qianshang's team fought in the Seaweed City Wall. Both sides suffered losses. 1 day ago, Emo Qianshang fought another team. An armorist ranked 19th on the wanted list died on the spot. 10 hours ago, Luo Xiaobai's team encountered another team of experts on the wanted list. A soul warrior ranked 26th on the wanted list died on the spot. After that, there was no more news about them. Han Fei was very familiar with the last place they appeared in, the sponge area. After getting the news, Han Fei left the dragon boat and stayed for no more than half an hour. Because the intelligence trading hall and the employment hall were right next door. So, when Han Fei passed the employment hall, he immediately heard someone shouting, "1 missing. An armorist." It said that Zhao Emo, the 39th expert on the wanted list, entered the seaborne prairie alone. Does anyone want to hunt him? 2 missing. A spirit gatherer and a manipulator. Our target is the other end of the worm-fish abyss. Hunting exotic creatures. Anyone interested, come quickly. 100-person team. Our target is the sponge area. We still need 22 people. Hunting the thug legend or Emo Qianshang's team. Anyone interested, come quickly. Scavenging team. All hunters. 1 more person. We'll set off as soon as we have enough people. Han Fei paused for a moment. He was wondering if he should sneak into the crowd. However, he immediately smiled. There seemed to be no need to do that. There were several dragon boats here. Although he didn't know where the Spectre ship was, it must be in this area, but it didn't show itself. There were so many people here, so it was impossible for there to be only a 100-man team. There should be a lot of such teams in the seaborne prairie. Under such circumstances, there was not much meaning in sneaking into a team. On the contrary, it was more convenient and faster to move alone. Figuring that out, Han Fei left the dragon boat alone and sailed to the seaborne prairie. However, after only traveling for 1,000 kilometers, a fishing boat descended from the sky and blocked his way. "Hey, brother, give me your sea-swallowing seashell." Han Fei tilted his head slightly. The fishing boat had been covered by seaweed, and vines were sweeping at him. On the opposite fishing boat, the Soul Warrior jumped onto Han Fei's boat with a rod. Han Fei smiled. "2 manipulators? An advanced dangling fisher? Do you think you can stop me?" Boom. Before the Soul Warrior could use his combat skill and was about to talk to Han Fei, a golden fist mark had already landed in front of him. Bam! The rod was broken by the punch, and the entire chest of the Soul Warrior was dented. Pooh! The Soul Warrior had never thought that he would be defeated before he could say a word in a battle of the same level. On the opposite fishing boat, the 2 armorists were appalled. They put away the fishing boat, crushed their flash stones, and fled without a trace. Han Fei didn't bother to deal with the 2 manipulators in the water. Dozens of blue sea wandering dragon daggers pierced out of his body and sank into the water. How could a regular advanced dangling fisher resist an ultra-quality spiritual weapon? Dozens of knife lights flashed and pierced through one of the manipulators in the water. The other one lost an arm. He crushed his flash stone at the critical moment and escaped. Everything was within Han Fei's perception. He could even sense that the manipulator flashed to the edge of his perception range and then quickly swam out. Han Fei grinned. The flash stones were less and less useful to him. His perception range of 5,000 meters happened to be the maximum distance that the flash stones could flash to. Also, the flash stones couldn't flash dozens of kilometers away every time. Sometimes they might only flash to a range of 1,000 meters, which was completely random. Han Fei was confident that as long as he absorbed more soul crystals or improved his perception range, those people wouldn't be able to escape unless they used the flash stones more than twice in a row. Otherwise, if he deliberately chased them, they wouldn't be able to escape. Of course, Han Fei didn't intend to chase those ghost boat runners at this moment. He was in a hurry. It was a journey of less than 10,000 kilometers. Han Fei had been intercepted by ghost boats 8 times. It was not hard to imagine how chaotic the seaborne prairie was. The ghost boat runners had already regarded this place as their backyard. Sometimes they weren't planning to run ghost boats, but when they saw that Han Fei was alone and only an advanced dangling fisher, they couldn't help but be tempted. It was even the first time that they had robbed someone. Unfortunately, none of the fishing boats could resist Han Fei for more than 10 seconds. Almost all of them ran away the moment they saw him. To save time, Han Fei simply swam above the seaborne prairie. Many people saw Han Fei's behavior. Their first reaction was surprise. What did this guy mean? Did he want to go down from the seaborne prairie? Or was he looking for poison in the reeds? Among the reeds, many people were searching for something at the periphery. Some were looking for the green arrow poisonous frogs, and some were hunting some creatures under the reeds. All of a sudden, an enormous golden fist mark smashed down from the sky, leaving a giant hole in the reeds. Someone nearby exclaimed, "Shoot! Someone is going down from above." Someone said in disdain, "Only idiots would do that. This place is full of spirit-swallowing bugs. He's asking to be killed if he goes down." Someone was confused. "That guy seemed very strong. I couldn't have taken that fist mark." Han Fei's behavior didn't raise any attention. Those who met him only thought that he was a relatively strong expert. However, they didn't find anyone who looked like Han Fei on the wanted list. So, they simply thought that he was a strong expert, but not strong enough to be on the wanted list. Underwater, Han Fei blew up the seaweeds that came at him with a punch, and spirit-swallowing bugs were crawling on the seaweeds and in the seawater. However, Han Fei didn't care about that at all. The fist mark pierced through the seawater and shattered all the creatures on its way. None of the spirit-swallowing bugs could land on Han Fei. Underwater, a team of 3 advanced dangling fishers saw the scene clearly. The golden fist mark pierced through the seawater and hit the ground. Boom! Han Fei punched a crab into pieces and locked the hands of one of them with his fish hook. At that moment, one of the 3 simply crushed a flash stone and fled. Where did this guy come from? That's a purple soldier crab. It's rare to see one, but you blew it up with one punch. If you have this kind of strength, don't make things difficult for us little people. The man who was caught by Han Fei was horrified. Bro, let's talk. You want my sea-swallowing seashell, don't you? I have it. I'll give it to you, as long as you don't kill me. Han Fei simply glanced at him casually. Have you ever met anyone on the wanted list? The man was briefly stunned. No. The man was lost for words. Then would we have ever met one? Even if we did, I wouldn't have a chance to stand here. Han Fei looked around. Where is this place? The man quickly said, This is the Broken Stone Valley. Han Fei took out the map and searched for a long time before he finally located the Broken Stone Valley. It was about 700 kilometers from here to the seaweed wall. From here to the sponge area, one would have to walk half an arc including the sea. It was almost 8,000 kilometers. Ignoring the man, Han Fei lifted his foot and moved dozens of meters away. When he raised his foot again, he had already disappeared into the moss-covered Broken Stone Valley. Who? It's so scary. Who is this guy? Tu Feng was an expert ranked 22nd on the wanted list. At this moment, he was crouching in a rock layer that was covered by seaweed. He wasn't here to fight at all. As far as he knew, neither Mo Qianshang nor Luo Xiaobai could deal with him. But he was so happy recently that he had looted more than 50 sea-swallowing seashells. Tu Feng said proudly, That's great. I'm waiting for the sea-swallowing seashells to be delivered to me. Is there something wrong with me for robbing a divine weapon? Who could snatch something like that just because they wanted to? If I'm alive to take it, I'll have to use it. Another sea-swallowing seashell? The third update. Asking for votes. One more update. End of this chapter. Chapter 5:16. In the eyes of the strong, the weak were usually regarded as delivery boxes, and robbing passers-by was as enjoyable as opening a package. At this moment, when Han Fei passed by Tu Feng quickly, a fishhook suddenly shot out and bound Han Fei's feet. Then, a short spear darted at him and broke the water as fast as a shooting star. Tu Feng grinned. He only needed one spear to deal with a regular advanced dangling fisher. He didn't even need to attack anymore. However, while Tu Feng was laughing, he found that Han Fei stopped too and looked at him with a faint smile. Why is he laughing? In the next second, a golden fist aura smashed onto the short spear, and the huge force sent the seemingly ferocious short spear flying. Not good. Tu Feng's first thought was that the guy was pretending to be weak, and his second thought was that the guy was from the Thousand-Star City. Either way, the guy was definitely one of the best on his level since he could resist his spear so easily. He didn't know if he was qualified to be on the wanted list, but he knew that a lot of people who weren't on the wanted list were just too low-key, not incapable of being on it. Tu Feng's first reaction was to crush the flash stone, but the moment he took it out, a fish hook suddenly appeared below his feet and hooked the flash stone away. Before Tu Feng took out a second flash stone, he saw dozens of fist auras coming at him. The fist auras were raging. Tu Feng was shocked. You're Han Fei? Tu Feng thought of someone. There were experts who were good at fists in the level 3 fishery, but Chao Tian and Chen Aochen were the best-known ones. However, many people didn't know them at all, because neither of them was on the wanted list. Also, as the heavenly talents of the Thousand-Star City, nobody dared to hunt them. However, ever since Han Fei defeated a hanging fisher with his fist outside the steps into the sea, the fact that he was good at fists had been widely known in the level 3 fishery. On the wanted list, there were no more than 5 experts who were good at fists, and Han Fei ranked first. Remembering that Han Fei was capable of disguising himself, Tu Fong was dumbfounded. "Brother Han, wait a moment!" Tu Fong smashed the fist projections with his high-grade spirit tool. However, to his horror, each of the fist projections was extremely powerful, and he was forced to retreat several hundred meters after receiving dozens of fist projections. Bang! In the end, when a huge fist mark smashed over, Tu Fong suddenly burst out. A water-shaped blast wave burst out from the long rod in his hand. At the same time, he injected 1/3 of his spiritual qi into the long rod. Boom! Tu Fong's figure was sent flying, leaving a mark that was dozens of meters long on the ground. The seaweed and reefs along the way were all crushed. In the next second, Han Fei pressed a long knife against Tu Fong's neck. Han Fei said with a smile, "I didn't know until today that the experts on the wanted list are actually quite weak. I'll give you a chance to tell me where Luo Xiaobai and the others are." Tu Fong hastily swallowed his saliva. He had suffered a heavy blow. "I'm weak? How could I be weak? If I were weak, could I have blocked dozens of your punches in the blink of an eye? If I were weak, could I have blocked your punch just now? If I were weak, I would have been killed in the first round, alright?" Of course, Tu Fong dared not complain at this moment. He said carefully, "Brother Han, no discord, no concord. 10 sea swallowing seashells will be my apology. I can help you find Luo Xiaobai and the others." As he spoke, Tu Fong waved his hand, and 10 sea swallowing seashells floated in the water. Han Fei waved his hand too, and the 10 sea swallowing seashells were naturally collected. Without even looking at the sea swallowing seashells, Han Fei asked with a smile, "Do you know where they are?" Tu Fong raised his hand in embarrassment and said telepathically, "I know where they fought today, but I'm not sure where they are right now." Han Fei said, "Speak." Tu Fong looked at the knife in Han Fei's hand. "Brother Han, can you put the knife away first? This is a complete misunderstanding. I can rob anyone, but I don't dare to rob you." Han Fei thought for a moment. "Do I know you well? Don't call me Brother Han. Tell me first, and I'll consider whether or not to let you go after you're done. That is, don't lie to me." Tu Fong moved his neck back a little bit, fearing that Han Fei might cut off his head. After all, he could sense the ultra-quality spiritual weapon in Han Fei's hand. Han Fei didn't care about that. He couldn't run away anyway. How could he run when his hands were still raised? Tu Fong said, "You came at the perfect time. Earlier today, Luo Xiaobai and the others appeared in the seaweed wall less than 5,000 kilometers from here." Han Fei immediately roared, "Think about it carefully. You're ambushing passers-by here, but you know what happened 5,000 kilometers away? Do you think I'm an idiot?" Tu Fong said quickly, "That's not true. I wasn't ambushing here earlier. I was close to the seaweed wall. But you know that it's not easy for us to catch up to people on the list. You may not know it, but people are everywhere within 1,000 kilometers of the seaweed wall. I came here because there were too many people and I might be attacked. Besides what?" Tu Fong said with a smile. "Luo Xiaobai and the others were not fighting Mo Qiansheng's team, but another group of people. Didn't Zhang Liang, who ranked 26th, perish? Many others were heavily wounded too. I followed them to this place. Unfortunately, I was discovered later and had to give up." Han Fei's heart was chilled. So, this Tu Fong was actually trying to take advantage of the situation. He didn't care which side won, but if the other side lost, he would simply kick them when they were down. Han Fei thought for a moment. If it were him, he probably would have made the same choice as Tu Fong. What good stuff could there be in the sea-swallowing seashells of ordinary people? How many ordinary people could give out 10 sea-swallowing seashells like Tu Fong did? However, this guy was not a good person. If Luo Xiaobai and the others were defeated, he must have been following them. Han Fei couldn't help but ask, "Where?" Tu Fong pointed to Han Fei's side and said, "Here." 3,000 kilometers forward, you'll reach the sponge area. Today, they fought from the sponge area to the outside and entered the seaweed wall. Han Fei subconsciously glanced at that direction, but because of his brief distraction, Tu Feng suddenly exerted strength on his feet and flew back. He was crushing a flash stone in his hand. Han Fei reacted quickly. He had no intention of letting go of Tu Feng. The man was cunning and strong. He had more than 10 sea-swallowing seashells. Han Fei's blood-drinking knife broke out of the water, and the intimidating aura of the knife left a vertical swirl in the seawater. It was too late. Tu Feng was astonished. Han Fei was simply too strong, and his reaction speed was so terrifying. He had only been hoping for a split second to crush the flash stone, but Han Fei had still managed to catch that split second. Crack! The instant the saber light burst forth, Tu Feng made a move of abandoning the rook to protect the general. A tortoise contractual spiritual beast appeared in front of him. Han Fei hadn't used the draw art yet. He had been preparing his knife for a long time. Back then, even Gong Yuehan couldn't take 3 attacks from Han Fei. Han Fei couldn't have been as strong as he was right now. With a crack, the contractual spiritual beast was cut in half by Han Fei's knife. Almost at the same time, the flash stone was crushed, and Tu Feng disappeared, leaving an arm behind. In Han Fei's perception, Tu Feng was already 8 kilometers away, rushing to the edge of the seaborne prairie at a high speed. Han Fei slightly frowned. This guy was truly smart. He knew that he was looking for someone in the inner circle, so the first thing he did after escaping was not to run in, but to run all the way out. Han Fei couldn't help but smile. You're lucky. Han Fei wasn't sure whether Tu Feng was telling the truth or not, but it didn't matter to him. It was just the seaborne prairie. The first big treasure trove he visited after he entered the level 3 fishery was the seaborne prairie. He was very good at surviving here. Moreover, he did not think that anyone could stop him. Unless it was a squad formed by the people on the wanted list, they would not be able to stop him. Thinking about that, Han Fei swam in the direction that Tu Feng pointed at. However, Han Fei didn't know that the news of Han Fei's arrival had already spread out half an hour after Tu Feng ran away. Tu Feng knew that it was impossible for him to take revenge on Han Fei in his current state, but the grudge had been made. He covered the wound on his arm and said brutally, "I can't kill you, but there are plenty of people on the dragon boats. You can't escape even if you have wings if you stay in the seaborne prairie." While Tu Feng spread the news of Han Fei's arrival crazily, Han Fei ran into a team of 100 people. Chapter 5:17. It was certainly not a coincidence that Han Fei encountered a team of 100 people. With Han Fei's perception range, he had already known the existence of this group of people as early as 10 kilometers away. However, not only did Han Fei not avoid them, but he also directly cancelled the 1,000 Faces technique and turned into his original appearance. At the same time, Han Fei summoned the 9-tailed mantis shrimp, sat on its back, and swaggered towards this group of people. For Han Fei now, no matter whether the opponent was an all-professional squad, a 10-person group, or a 100-person group, it didn't make any sense. Since he was able to resist the sword currents of the abyssal chasm and rush to Ren Tianfan's treasure place, Han Fei had already known his current strength. At this moment, Han Fei was just like the fat Han Fei when he first cultivated the indestructible body art. For this group of people, he was equivalent to a super big boss. If you want to win, sure, you have to break my defense first. Besides, Han Fei didn't think that he had cultivated for so long and made himself stronger by all kinds of deceit and deception just to pretend to be weak. As a result, there was this face-to-face confrontation. The team of 100 people seemed to have just come out of the sponge land. Some people were blown up miserably. Obviously, they had encountered a group of idol-chasing sponges. The moment they saw Han Fei, this team of 100 people immediately burst into an uproar. Han Fei! Oh my sea god, did I see it wrong? It's really Han Fei. That's a 9-tailed mantis shrimp. You can wear out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it by chance. Instead of finding Mo Qianshang and Luo Xiaobai, we met Han Fei. Did he come out of the abyssal chasm? Wow! For a moment, the crowd was in a commotion, and many people were ready to take action. Since these people dared to hunt Mo Qianshang and Luo Xiaobai, they were certainly not weak. At a glance, Han Fei saw no less than 20 peak-level dangling fishers. There seemed to be more behind them. The rest were all advanced dangling fishers. If Han Fei encountered such a team before, he would definitely run away as soon as possible. But now, unless these people were all made up of peak-level dangling fishers, Han Fei had no fear. Before those people took action, Han Fei took the lead and shouted, "Hey, have you found where Luo Xiaobai and the others went?" Everyone. Someone said, "Are you asking us?" Ha ha ha, someone laughed and said, "Han Fei, do you not understand the current situation?" Someone shouted, "Surround them! Set up the formation!" These people saw that Han Fei was so fearless. Although it was obvious that he didn't care about them, they attributed this indifference to Han Fei's arrogance. Han Fei was not in a hurry. He smiled and said, "Hey! It's not too late for you to run now. After all, it's not easy for us to survive in the level 3 fishery. However, once we start fighting, don't say that I didn't give you a chance." After some people heard this, they began to speculate. No one was a fool. Was Han Fei, who was in the top 3 of the wanted list, a fool? If the other party wasn't a fool, how much confidence did he have? Facing a team of 100 people, he still dared to speak so arrogantly? A peak-level dangling fisher shouted, "Don't believe him." Later, he would attack with all his strength. A person's spiritual energy was limited. None of us here today are mediocre. Do you think we're afraid of him when there are so many of us? Someone shouted, "Han Fei must have precious treasures on him. After we kill him, we'll split it evenly." Soon, hundreds of people surrounded Han Fei. And it was the first time that Han Fei had seen so many people setting up a formation. It was a formation jointly set up by a group of spirit gatherers and manipulators. Immediately, Han Fei knew the origin of this formation. If a kind of formation could be set up by many people together, this kind of formation was usually not of a high level. Why? You can imagine that this was a team assembled at the last minute, and definitely not a formation that belonged to a large sect. Since it was not a special formation but a temporary formation, how strong could it be? In fact, before Han Fei took action, he had already thought it through. Of course, although the level of this formation was not high, it couldn't hide the fact that many people had set it up. Besides, this kind of formation was generally a kind of mature formation. Therefore, for ordinary people, its power was definitely not small. Han Fei smiled and said, "Is this to prevent me from running out with flash stones?" The several peak-level dangling fishers in the lead sneered. "Good that you know." Han Fei was not in a hurry but looked at these people with a smile. "If I really fight, I won't kill all of you. I'll keep you alive. Oh, by the way, after I go out, remember to promote me on the dragon boat. You don't have to look for it. Next time, all dragon boats, remember, all dragon boats, get ready." Haha. Someone looked at Han Fei dumbfoundedly. Was his brain clamped by a sea-swallowing seashell? You? Did he mean that he still wanted to find trouble with the dragon boats? The large formation was soon set up, spanning a kilometer. Some peak-level dangling fishers took action, and everyone attached their spiritual beasts and contractual spiritual beasts to themselves. The armorists took the lead. Nearly 20 armorists opened their armor boxes. Even if each person only took out a sword and a knife, there were still 40 or 50 weapons. In fact, each person had more than a dozen weapons taken out of the box, and some people even took out dozens of weapons. However, in Han Fei's view, these weapons were too weak. Han Fei didn't know if Chen Aochen had told them that he had an ultra-quality spiritual weapon. He just assumed that Chen Aochen had said it. Anyway, this thing would be exposed sooner or later. If he fought against 100 people last time, it was because of the right time and place. Then this time, he had nothing but recklessness. Han Fei thought that he could make a name for himself, and he could make a name for himself that people would tremble in fear at the sound of his name. He firmly believed that as long as the hidden fishers didn't show up, no one in the level 3 fishery could shake him. Even if the hidden fishers showed up, Han Fei didn't think that Old Bai and the others would be indifferent. Han Fei didn't believe that they wouldn't pay attention to this place even though they were separated by an infinite ocean. Therefore, when the sky was full of weapons attacking from all directions, Han Fei swam out all the blue sea wandering dragon daggers. In a group battle, the lethality of the million knife art was terrifying. In particular, all of Han Fei's weapons were ultra-quality spiritual weapons. This allowed him to be in a state of invincibility with his weapons. Crack, crack, crack. The 99 blue sea wandering dragon daggers, at a terrifying speed, rotated dozens of meters around Han Fei's body. All the weapons that intended to attack him were cut off almost in an instant. Even high-quality spiritual weapons couldn't escape the fate of breaking when being strangled by multiple blue sea wandering dragon daggers. Puff, puff, puff. For a time, all the armorists, including the peak-level dangling fishers, vomited blood. Everyone was shocked. Someone roared, "Take back your weapons, take back your weapons!" At this time, Han Fei had already attached to Little Gold. With a swish, Han Fei disappeared on the spot. Someone yelled, "Everyone, use your secret arts if you have them. Armorists, use all your shields and armor." Han Fei chuckled and had already rushed into the crowd. Facing the seaweed and vines that burst out like a flood, none of them could approach him and were all shredded as soon as they appeared. When big shields blocked him from all directions, Han Fei's fist light burst out. Boom, 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 dong, dong, dong. In the blink of an eye, dozens of big shields were all sent flying back. Someone was swept by the blue sea wandering dragon daggers and was cut in half. Someone seemed to be able to turn into a plant to escape, but the plant was directly smashed into pieces by the blue sea wandering dragon daggers. With the joint attack of dozens of peak-level dangling fishers, the surging energy directly pushed the seawater into a large energy ball. However, a knife light slashed over and all the power was cut off by Han Fei. Han Fei's mocking voice sounded in everyone's head, "Is that all you've got? Those peak-level dangling fishers, what are you hiding? Do you think you can still escape?" Majestic mystic spell. Han Fei's eyes suddenly turned cold, and his momentum suddenly rose to a new height. He felt that the energy in his body was exploding and going berserk. Swish! Like a phantom, Han Fei appeared in front of a peak-level soul warrior in an instant. Han Fei casually slashed, and the man had no time to fight back at all, so he could only control the hundreds of bone spurs of his contractual spiritual beast to burst out. Crack, crack, crack. When the man's bones were broken and he died, Han Fei's figure had already appeared on the other side, and none of the bone spurs that burst out could touch Han Fei. After 2 months of 10 times the gravity cultivation, Han Fei's reaction ability and speed had reached an extremely abnormal level. Boom, boom, boom. However, some people's chests and abdomens collapsed, and some people's internal organs were damaged. In the crowd, several peak-level dangling fishers seemed to have cast some kind of secret technique. In a short period of time, their strength was almost raised to the peak of the peak level. However, the golden fist light smashed through the man's chest in the next second. The blue sea wandering dragon daggers rolled into the crowd, and some people's battle suits were disintegrated and they were hacked to death. Of course, when facing the peak-level dangling fishers, Han Fei was inevitably cut many times. It was not a matter of whether he could dodge or not, but because there were so many of them that he couldn't dodge. However, those people were shocked to find that Han Fei was still wearing an ultra-quality battlesuit. What the hell? The ultra-quality battlesuit had amazing defensive power. If they didn't use secret techniques, they wouldn't even be able to hurt Han Fei with pure strength. A peak-level soul warrior, with a strange bow technique of 13 arrows, directly passed through the million-knife art and landed on Han Fei's chest. However, he was shocked to find that Han Fei didn't even take half a step back. Han Fei even smiled at him. I can even resist the sword torrents of a peak-level dangling fisher. Do you think I'm afraid of your spiritual energy arrows? At that moment, Han Fei took out the blue sea wandering dragon bow and shot an arrow. In the blink of an eye, the arrow burst through the seawater and penetrated the battle suit on the man's body almost instantly. At the same time, the man bled from all his orifices, his soul collapsed, and he died instantly. Run away. No one knew who it was that suddenly roared out this sentence. They were really horrified. What kind of freak was this? The attack of a peak-level dangling fisher had no effect on Han Fei at all. The million-knife art composed of all ultra-quality spiritual knives was almost a bug in a team battle. They couldn't fight it at all. The group of people was speechless. Damn it, I can't fight an ultra-quality spiritual weapon with a mid-quality spiritual weapon, can I? Han Fei stretched out his hand and waved, and all the blue sea wandering dragon daggers returned. However, of the 100 people just now, more than 30 had died at this moment. Of the remaining people, half were injured, and a small half were seriously injured. At this moment, these people were all fleeing. Han Fei shouted, "Remember what I said. From today on, the level 3 fishery is my home field.